Works. The hour of convening has arrived, and the Senate will now come to order. At this time, I would ask that all unauthorized persons exit the chamber. The very not so populated chamber at this point. Sir, I have not recognized you yet. The chair recognizes the distinguished senator from Chickamauga.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry I got off cue a little bit. Just overwhelmed of the greatness of this chamber and its leader. So I want to thank you for your leadership and the members of this chamber for working for the people of Georgia. Moment in time, 1932, Governor Joseph Brown passed away at this time today, served at 2 terms for governor. Back then, the 2 terms were not 4-year terms. And also, Governor Brown never gave a professional speech, ever. Something I might like to do one day. 1962, Herschel Walker, the man many considers the greatest University of Georgia football player, was born in Augusta on this date in 1962. It's also the Peach Blossom Day and the National Anthem Day, and the day that the men and women of Georgia are going to be inspired by the work of the state Senate. The journal's been read and found to be correct, Mr. President.
I guess that's what we get when we wait till 1 o'clock to gavel in. You have extra time to gather more facts. That was impressive. Absolutely impressive. You and your staff did an amazing job pulling those facts together. Is there objection to the dispensing of the reading of the journal? The chair hears none, and the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills and resolutions, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. Mr. Secretary, first reading of Senate bills and resolutions, please.
Senate Bill 271 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 43-34-13 of the OCGA relating to fingerprinting and criminal background checks for healthcare professionals.
Health and Human Services, please.
Senate Bill 273 by Senator Jones of the 25th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the OCGA relating to elections and primaries generally so as to authorize local governments to conduct elections by paper ballots in 2021 to provide for related.
Ethics.
Senate Bill 274 by Senators Thompson of the 14th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to provide a homestead exemption from Bartow County School District ad valorem taxes for educational purposes in the full amount of the first
State and local government.
Senate Bill 275 by Senator Thompson of the 14th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for a homestead exemption from certain Bartow County School
State
District.
and local government.
Senate Bill 277 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 4 of Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to carrying and possession of firearms so as to extend the exemption from
Public
weapons.
safety.
Senate Bill 278 by Senators Merritt of the 9th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 34 of the OCGA relating to employment security so as to provide protections for employees
Insurance and labor.
Senate Resolution 176 by Senator Harbison of the 15th, a resolution honoring the life of Corporal Mark Privat and dedicating a bridge in his memory and for other purposes.
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 177 by Senator C. of the 34th and others, a resolution recognizing and commending Senator Valencia C. on receiving the Georgia Speech Language Hearing Association Legislature.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 179 by Senators Albers of the 56th and others, a resolution recognizing Senator Fran Millar and dedicating a road in his honor and for other purposes.
Transportation.
This completes the order, Mr. President.
First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions, please.
House Bill 124 by Representatives Williams of the 145th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 18 of Title 43 of the OCGA relating to funeral directors and establishment, embalmers, and crematories so as to provide for multiple cremation
Regulated industries.
House Bill 244 by Representatives Hogan of the 179th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 33-8-8.3 of the OCGA relating to the funding of services or reduction of ad valorem taxes in unincorporated areas of county.
Insurance and labor.
House Bill 392 by Representatives Ridley of the 6th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 3 of the OCGA relating to alcoholic beverages so as to provide that licenses for retail sale packages of alcohol.
Regulated industries.
House Bill 443 by Representatives Leverett of the 33rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 51 of the OCGA relating to damages so as to provide for new requirements regarding the transfer of structured settlement payment.
Judiciary.
House Bill 453 by Representatives McDonald of the 26th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-2-86.1 of the OCGA relating to special license plates promoting or supporting certain worthy agencies.
Public safety.
House Bill 459 by Representatives Martin of the 49th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 5 of Chapter 36 of Title 36 of the OCGA relating to limitation on annexation of areas, furnished services, or included in
State
comprehensive.
and local government general.
House Bill 466 by Representatives Powell of the 32nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 40 of and Chapter 13 of Title 43 of the OCGA relating to driver's licenses and driver training schools respectively.
Public safety.
House Bill 476 by Representatives Washburn of the 141st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 15 of Title 43 of the OCGA relating to professional engineers and land surveyors so as to provide that the
Regulated industries.
House Bill 531 by Representatives Fleming of the 121st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the OCGA relating to elections and primaries generally so as to provide that no election superintendent.
Ethics.
House Bill 539 by Representative Cooper of the 43rd, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 34 of Title 43 of the OCGA relating to the Medical Practice Act of the State of Georgia so as to revise provisions
Health and
relating.
Human Services.
This completes the order, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read reports of standing committees?
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 247, due passed by substitute, respectfully submitted, Senator Walker of the 20th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 266, due passed by substitute. Senate Bill 106, due passed by substitute. Senate Bill 240, due passed by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Payne of the 54th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Ethics has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 241, due passed by committee substitute. Senate Bill 232, due passed by committee substitute. Senate Bill 202, due passed by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burns of the 23rd. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 199, due passed by substitute. Senate Bill 213, due passed by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huff-Settler of the 52nd. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Government Oversight has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 108, due pass. Senate Bill 218, due pass. Senate Resolution 134, due pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbin of the 16th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 256, due pass by substitute. House Bill 245, due pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Higher Education has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 239, due pass by substitute. Senate Resolution 154, due pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Tippins of the 37th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 162, due pass. Senate Bill 164, due pass. Senate Bill 197, due pass. Senate Bill 234, due pass by substitute. Senate Bill 238, due pass. Senate Bill 276, due pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 226, due pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and the Environment has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 258, due pass by committee substitute. Senate Bill 260, due pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harper of the 7th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 595, due pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Transportation has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 98, due pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Ginn of the 47th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Veterans, Military, and Homeland Security has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 225, do pass. Senate Bill 237, do pass. House Bill 106, do pass. House Bill 156, do pass by substitute. House Bill 208, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read bills and resolutions for the second time?
Senate Bill 69 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others. Primaries and elections. Persons desiring to register to vote or update their voter registration through an application for a driver's license indicate such desire on such application. Provide. Senate Bill 71 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others. Elections and primaries. The definition of absentee elector. Revise. Reasons for voting by absentee ballot. Provide. Senate Bill 72 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others. Elections and primaries. County registrar shall obtain monthly from the coroner, judge of the probate court, and funeral homes in the county identifying information about persons who died in the county during the previous month. Provide. Senate Bill 74 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others. Elections and primaries. Ability of poll watchers at tabulating centers to observe the vote counting process. Revise. Senate Bill 153 by Senator Dolezal of the 27th and others. Graduation Opportunities and Advanced Learning Act, enact. Senate Bill 178 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others. Elections and primaries. Absentee ballot applications shall not be sent without first receiving a request for such an application from such elector. Provide. Senate Bill 219 by Senator Ginn of the 47th and others. Alcoholic beverages. Regulation of the manufacture, distribution, and sale of malt beverages. Provide. Senate Bill 236 by Senator Brass of the 28th and others. Alcoholic beverages. Food service establishments to sell mixed drinks for off-premises consumption in approved containers under certain conditions. Allow. Senate Bill 246 by Senator Brass of the 28th and others. The Learning Pod Protection Act. Exemptions applicable to learning pods, student attendance, administrative, and judicial proceedings. Provide. Senate Bill 252 by Senator C of the 34th and others. Public officers. The compensation of certain public officials. Revise. Senate Bill 253 by Senator Merritt of the 9th and others. Elections and primaries. Notice when polling places are relocated. Provide. Senate Bill 255 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others. One Georgia Authority Act. Grant program to support border region retail and tourism projects. Provide. Senate Resolution 84 by Senator Harper of the 7th and others. Airport infrastructure and improvements. Create joint study committee. Senate Resolution 143 by Senator Harbin of the 16th and others. General Assembly chaplain, honorary position, appoint. This completes the order, Mr. President.
All right. It's now time for our afternoon roll call. Try to remember that all day. Are there any motions to excuse? The chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon, y'all. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the following senators from the 19th, the 35th, the 38th, and I'm looking for the 34th. Oh, there she is. Thank you, sir, for business outside the Capitol.
Thank you, Senator. Without objection, the senators from the 19th, the 35th, the 38th, and almost the 34th are excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 39th. Oh, here she is. Never mind.
Senator from the 39th is here, present, and accounted for. Any other motions to excuse? The chair sees none. The secretary will call the roll of senators. Signify your presence by voting the yea switch. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted your attendance? Have all senators voted your attendance, specifically the senator from the 40th? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. We have a special guest with us today that we would all like to recognize. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the resolution?
Senate Resolution 170 by Senator Jones of the 10th and others, a resolution recognizing and commending Georgia Supreme Court Chief Justice Harold Melton for his 30 years in state government and for other purposes. Whereas Georgia Supreme Court Chief Justice Harold Melton has long been recognized by the citizens of this state for the vital role that he has played in state government and his deep personal commitment to the well-being of the citizens of Georgia. And whereas Chief Justice Melton was born in Washington, D.C., he grew up in East Point and Marietta, Georgia, and whereas he attended Auburn University, where he was the first black person elected to serve as president of the Student Senate. He earned his Juris Doctorate from the University of Georgia in 1991. And whereas prior to joining the court, Chief Justice Melton spent 11 years with the Georgia Department of Law. And whereas Chief Justice Melton also served as executive counsel to Governor Sonny Perdue. And whereas among his many civic activities, he served as a volunteer leader of Young Life Ministry, serving on its local board as well as the national board. He is also a board member of Atlanta Youth Academics. And whereas Chief Justice Melton has served with honor and distinction with the Georgia Supreme Court. And whereas it is abundantly fitting and proper that the outstanding accomplishments of this distinguished Georgian be appropriately recognized. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend Georgia Supreme Court Chief Justice Harold Melton for his efficient, effective, and dedicated public service to the state of Georgia, congratulate him upon the grand occasion of his retirement, and extend the most sincere best wishes for continued health and happiness. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to take a moment to just personally thank and express my appreciation to Chief Justice Melton and his exceptional service and leadership of our judiciary of our great state. Throughout his time in public service and especially as Chief Justice, he has truly put on display our state's motto each and every day: wisdom, justice, and moderation. This time I'd like to recognize a senator from the 10th to introduce to us our special guest.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of this great body. It is indeed an honor for me to present to some and introduce to others my friend, the Chief Justice of Georgia Supreme Court, Justice Harold Melton. Justice Melton has served on the Georgia Supreme Court since 2005 and has been the Chief Justice since 2018. However, he was serving our state long before he joined the Supreme Court. Chief Justice spent 11 years of his career in the Georgia Department of Law dealing with issues that are of great importance to Georgians. He then served as executive counsel to Governor Perdue and did the very same, notably fighting for Georgians and water rights, disputes with Alabama and Florida, and working to advance the delivery of criminal justice services in Georgia. In his 30 years working in state government, Chief Justice Melton has displayed grit, heart, passion, and kindness. He is the definition of a steadfast man, unwavering in his character and beliefs. This is what made him an outstanding Supreme Court justice. And also, this is what makes him an irreplaceable and treasured friend, father, and husband, and indeed a great Georgian. Outside of working in state government, Chief Justice Melton volunteered his time and energy to serve with the Young Life Ministries as a leader and part of the board. He also serves as a board member of Atlanta Youth Academies. This is the time when I had an opportunity to meet Chief Justice, and I wanted to share that with you because I know his passion for youth and inspiring the next generation. But on a more personal note, I just want to share a moment that I shared with our Chief Justice that still resonates with me today. Chief Justice, some time ago, back in around 2009, was our Men's Day speaker at my church in McDonough, Georgia. And it was during this time that he had a chance meeting with a young man named Janala Wilson. Gennaro had been 2 years removed from the Byrd State Prison, and at the time he was in his freshman year at Morehouse College. And see, I've asked Chief Justice if it's okay if I share just part of this story with you, and he has given me permission to do that. But right after our service, Gennaro had a chance meeting as he was tagging alongside me to meet and greet our Chief Justice. Much to my surprise and surprise of almost everyone in the sanctuary, Chief Justice asked if he could spend a private moment with Gennaro Wilson. And let me just remind you, this is something that struck me as odd because during that time where we were fighting to get this young man released, it was my job to try and influence our justices, as well as the Chief Justice, who was then Leo Sears at the time on the Supreme Court. And let me just say, I had more success with others than I did with our current Chief Justice. But yet, despite the differences, those two met in a private room. And I will share with you that I was not in that room. But I can tell you that I know there was a lot of respect, probably some fear and trepidation even that was in that room. And I can tell you that in that room where these two met, there was probably a lot of hope and even despair. And I'm sure that in that room where these two men met from different sides of the track, yet joined together by this common bond of humanity, there was also a moment where that must have been times where there was much love in that room as well. Two men, socially, politically different, one trying to start his career, one established, very prominent. But yet, out of the outcome of that meeting was a moment where I know their two souls connected. And I know that because Gennaro Wilson called me and asked me to thank the Chief Justice for influencing his life. He said simply, Senator, he extended an olive branch to me, and he encouraged me to do well with my endeavors. And it's that kind of encouragement, it's that kind of a man that I present to you today. Someone who has always sit high and presided over countless cases, but yet never ever lost that common touch of dealing with young people that he always sought to influence. And Chief Justice, let me just say, there's always power in your words. But I can tell you that that moment that you spent with this young man was much more powerful than you can ever imagine. As a matter of fact, today, he even serves in the law department, working for the city of Atlanta in the law department, having his record completely expunged. So I am more than honored today, more than delighted to share this story that we have shared for so many years and to present to you my close friend, my good friend, the Chief Justice of the Georgia Supreme Court, Justice Harry Melton.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I want to begin by thanking Senator Emanuel Jones for taking the step to introduce this resolution, and for every senator who signed on. And I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor in particular for opening up these august chambers for me to be in front of you today. I know you have work to do. I won't take much of your time. I'm honored to be in your presence. I'm honored to have served this great state. I will tell you that when you honor me, you honor my fine judges on our court, my friends on the Court of Appeals, the Judicial Council, the Administrative Office of the Court, the judges all throughout this state who have come around a common cause to do great work for the citizens of this great state. I am so grateful for them to allow me to be a part of what they are doing, and we collectively serve with you. And it's been my greatest honor over these last 30 years to play a part in what you are doing and what we are doing together. So thank you very much. It's my real honor to be with you today. Thank you so much.
All right, the Senate will come back to order. Are there any unanimous consents? All right, the Senate will come back to order. And it's now time for our afternoon devotional. Ask that all senators take your seats and cease all audible conversations. We're a little out of sequence here, but we certainly wanted to afford the Chief Justice his opportunity to address us. Call upon our pro tem to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance and to introduce to us our chaplain of the day.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, moderation. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I'm proud to be here with you this morning, and I'm proud to introduce Reverend Michael McCord. Reverend McCord got his undergraduate degree at Mercer University. He got his master's degree at Emory University. He's a doctoral candidate at Vanderbilt University. He serves on the Southern Georgia Conference of United Methodist Church. He is a director of the United Methodist Church Higher Education Committee. He serves as a board of trustees for numerous colleges and universities, including Payne, Reinhardt, Andrew, Young Harris, Oxford University, Emory at Oxford University. But he's also, more than that, when he's not working to help young people and help educate young people and spread the word of Jesus Christ, he is a proud father of Elizabeth 10 and Austin 6, and he and his wife, Emily, raised their children in Beaufort, Georgia. Please give Reverend McCord your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Pro Tem, Mr. Secretary, for the opportunity to be with you today. Thank you all. It's an honor to be able to share with you today. When I received the invitation to speak with you, I happened to be with my son, Austin, who's 6. He and Ellie are at World Language Academy up in Hall County, and I think they're watching today. And I said to him, Austin, I'm going to meet with this group of leaders who work to make Georgia better. They work together to do that. What should I say to them? And he looked at me. He's kind of a creative, kind of precocious kid. And he looks up at me and he laughs. He says, tell them how to build with magnetiles. Now, for those who don't know what magnetiles, I brought some here today. These are magnetiles, and they are plastic building blocks with magnets, and you can build all kinds of creations with these. In fact, your imagination is the only limitation you have when it comes to building with these. And Austin will spend hours in his room building them. Well, as you can imagine, I walked out of the room and kind of laughed and said, well, that's not much help. How do you talk about magnetiles with the Georgia Senate? But as I started to think about it, I realized he may be actually onto something. See, there's this story in the Gospel of John where Jesus is walking through Samaria, and he ends up at this well, Jacob's well, near Sychar, and he encounters a woman there. It's a fascinating story. There's so much you can unpack in this story, but for us today, I want to think about this story as it's a story of two people who shouldn't be working together. See, Jesus is a Jew, and the woman, she's a Samaritan. Jews and Samaritans hated each other. They despised. They had a long-running dispute about whose religion was the true religion, and it says didn't like each other so much they wouldn't even look at each other's direction. Jesus shouldn't have been there, and he certainly shouldn't be there with a Samaritan. But she's a woman, and he's a man, and in this time and period, women and men were not seen together in public. If you weren't married, you wouldn't talk to them. You wouldn't be seen together. These two should not be talking together in public, and yet there they are. And then finally, we don't know much about this woman, but we know she's experienced enormous heartache, so much so that she comes to the well by herself to get water in the middle of the day. They should not be together, and yet they are. And it turns out they're talking about a public works project. Yeah, it's water. They're trying to get out water out of the well so they can drink. And it's much more than that, it turns out, about redemption and healing of this woman. But what happens is they hear each other, they know each other, and then they also are heard. The story goes on, and the woman goes back into her town, and the story ends with this. Many of the Samaritans from that town believed in him because of that woman's testimony. He told me everything I ever did. So when the Samaritans came to him, they urged him to stay with them, and he stayed 2 days longer. And because of his words, many more became believers. Jesus gave the woman a voice. The woman gave him an entree into the community, and together, even though they shouldn't be talking, shouldn't be working together, made their community better. Friends, I think there are a lot of forces in the world today that tell us that what you do in here shouldn't happen. People of different minds and backgrounds should not be working together. We shouldn't be the art of compromise. We shouldn't come up with new solutions together, but we should try to pull our tribes together, eliminate and do whatever we can to block the other's view. But see, what we know about magnetiles is they're magnets. And we know magnets, the only way they connect together is if you have the positive pole and the negative pole come together. You can't build anything with two positives or two negatives. It's not possible. You have to have them both. I believe our future, the ability to make the world better, requires everyone from pole to pole and everything in between. And so my prayer for you today, as you work together, as you compromise, as you work for our state and for our people, we find ways to work together. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Senate will come back to order. The Senate will come back to order. Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? Chair recognizes the rules chairman. I've never seen you wear glasses before.
Hey, do I look smarter than I? Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to talk about the Rules Committee for a moment. We will not meet today. We will meet tomorrow at 10:30, followed by a great nutritious meal from Varsity Hot Dogs. Everybody's invited. Anybody presenting a bill, and the entire Senate and staff is invited at the mez. Oh, they gave me a timer. I'm talking about Varsity. Committee meeting at 10:30, and lunch is at 12. I'd like to also let you know that we could have some long days up to crossover. I would suspect that Friday may not be as long because the gentleman behind me told me it wasn't going to be. But we'll have a rules meeting after session Friday for Monday. But Monday could be a long day, so just prepare for that. Get your psycho going for a long day. A senator from the 15th and I and many others are well aware of how it could be for a crossover. But thank you. I enjoyed serving as your rules chair. If I can be of service, please let me know. And the members of the Rules Committee choose the bill. We decide what's available, and they choose the bill. So if you got a bill you want, talk to your Rules Committee members now. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Just as a quick point of reference, we've got a number of folks that have requested an opportunity to present a point of personal privilege. We all have watches, but I'm just pointing out the fact it's 1:46, and we have a tremendously aggressive rules calendar today. With that, the chair recognizes the senator from the 17th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Happy to be joined by my colleague from the senator from the 10th. We rise today to honor Gary Barham. Gary passed away yesterday morning. He was our District 3 County Commissioner in Henry County, where he served since 2013. Gary's roots ran deep in Henry County. His family has been in the county since the 1800s. Prior to his service as a county commissioner, he served the city of McDonough for 31 years as the Director of Public Works and Chairman of the Parks and Beautification Committee. He also was a volunteer fireman, a Little League coach, and umpire. But more than that, Gary was a great person, a great friend for both of us, everyone in McDonough and Henry County. I rise and ask for a moment of silence, to prayer for his family, in particular his wife Becky, his sons Adam and Josh, and his 5 grandchildren.
Please rise and offer a moment of silence.
Thank you so much.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise this morning to celebrate the wonderful life of Mr. Vernon Jordan, Jr., native Atlantan and one of Georgia's favorite sons. He attended the public schools of Atlanta, an honor graduate of David T. Howard High School, graduated from DePaul University and studied law at Howard University. He started his career fighting segregation as was one of the legal teams against the University of Georgia's integration policy in 1961 on behalf of Dr. Hamilton Holmes and Charlene Hunter. Jordan accompanied the 2 students to the University of Georgia's admissions office that year through an angry mob of white students. He worked as a field director for the NAACP, also as the director for the Southern Regional Council for Voter Education Project, president of the National Urban League, and then the United Negro College Fund. You know, in 1980, there was assassination attempt on his life. People always asked us, why does Black Lives Matter? Well, you know, Vernon Jones had 5 surgeries. The white supremacists that later said that he did the crime was never was prosecuted for it. So that is one of the reasons. He was a counselor to presidents, both Democrat and Republican, a civil rights icon, one of our own here in the state of Georgia, one of the best legal minds of our times, a successful businessman working in investment banking, and also he worked on several boards, American Express, J.C. Penney Corporation, Asbury Automotive Group, Dow Jones and Company, Xerox, R.J. Reynolds Tobacco, Sarah Lee, Corning, and the list goes on and on. And people always asked us, you know, as a senator in the Georgia State Senate, why are you all always saying that you want to suppress the vote? Well, Vernon Jones stood up for us long time ago. And we've lost 3 or 4 people from Georgia right now this past year that have been for voter registration. The last time I saw him, you always hung on to his words because he's one of the best legal minds ever. And so a couple of years ago, he spoke over at the 150th anniversary of St. Paul AME Church, just a few miles down the street, and reminded us in that speech to keep fighting for voter education, voter registration, and voter empowerment. So today we honor the life of Vernon Jordan, and remember his life. He passed away on my birthday, March the 1st, and we give him all the honor here as a son of Atlanta and as a son of Georgia. And Mr. President, I know we are short for time, but if we could just do a moment of silence in honor of Vernon Jones here in Atlanta and in Vernon Jordan in the state of Georgia and also in Atlanta.
Senator has asked us to rise and offer a moment of silence.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the way up.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 32nd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to honor somebody for Women's History Month. And she is Georgia native. Her name is Lila Denmark. She was an American pediatrician in Atlanta, and she was the world's oldest practicing pediatrician until she retired in 2001 at the age of 103 after 73 years in practice. She was a supercentenarian. She lived to the age of 114. And in 2011, she became one of the 100 oldest people ever. She was a pioneering female doctor, medical researcher, and an outspoken voice in the pediatric community. And she was one of the co-developers of the pertussis vaccine. She started treating children in 1928, and by the time she retired, she was treating not only grandchildren, but great-grandchildren of her first patients. She was born in Portal, Georgia, which I believe is in Bullock County, and she was the third of 12 children. She had a paternal uncle, Congressman James Alexander Doherty, and she attended Tift College in Forsyth, Georgia, trained to be a teacher, and then her fiance got posted to the Dutch Indies by the United States Department of State, and wives were not allowed to go, so she decided to go to medical school. And she was the only woman in the 1928 graduating class of the Medical College of Georgia in Augusta, and the third woman ever to get a medical degree. He soon returned, and they had one child. She did a residency at Grady, moved to Virginia Highlands, and was on staff at Eggleston Hospital. And she did a lot of charity work and also wrote 2 books, the second one in 2002, the year after she retired at 102. She lived in Cumming, Georgia until she was 106, then moved to Athens with her daughter, and she was named Atlanta's Woman of the Year in 1953. So she's got a high school named after her in Forsyth County, and she is a great role model for women in medicine, and I just wanted to take that brief moment in history. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 47th for a point of personal privilege.
Mr. President, you know, a lot of people look at my tie today and wonder, why does Frank Ginn have on a American flag tie? It's a great day to be an American. Said for me, one of the things this morning I heard first thing on the radio was that not only our United States President, but also our governor, a native of Athens, said they are together on kicking this pandemic, as my friend from the 53rd says, ass, said in a biblical kind of way. Said but we're working together to do that. And so we're starting to see a regrowth of our tourism in Georgia. And one of the things I hope that everybody has seen in their office, a nice gift box from our friends over in Athens. Our president of the Chamber of Commerce, David Bradley, has distributed these out with a little help from our friends to show you some love and affection from the city of Athens. For me, when we start to look, Athens is a great tourism destination. I think everybody went to Athens during the biennial. We want to make sure that you get your trip to Athens in. Said we've got some good highways in there, thanks to our friend from the 53rd. Said the senator from the 51st and a few others. And where's our friend from North Atlanta? Said but I want to thank y'all for taking care and taking a trip to Athens. Welcome to Athens, folks.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. And it's my honor to introduce our doctor of the day, who's LaJune Oliver. Dr. LaJune Oliver is a board-certified family medicine physician and obesity medicine specialist with Kaiser Permanente. Her passion is promoting healthy lifestyles and prevention to her patients and community. In her practice, she focuses on women's health, chronic disease management, and assists with the weight management program. A native of Georgia, Dr. Oliver received her Bachelor's of Science degree from Emory University and a doctorate in medicine from the Medical College of Georgia. She completed both her internship and residency at Emory University School of Medicine. She's a member of the Medical Association of Georgia, Georgia State Medical Association, and Georgia Academy of Family Physicians. Dr. Oliver speaks to schools, churches, and other community organizations, encouraging wellness and prevention. She's an active member of the Zion Hill Baptist Church in Southwest Atlanta, serving as a youth mentor and enjoys traveling. Don't we all? Dr. Oliver's greatest joy is spending time with her family. Thank you so much for your service, Dr. Oliver. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 43rd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, colleagues. Today, I rise to invite you to our tomorrow Be the Match Day at the Capitol. Be the Match is adds donors onto the Be the Match registry. More than 400 Georgians have turned to the match searching for a cure since last year. For patients battling deadly blood cancers like leukemia or lymphoma or life-threatening blood diseases like sickle cell disease or aplastic anemia, there is a cure. A blood stem cell transplant from a matching living donor can offer hope to patients battling these and 70 other deadly blood diseases. Yet only 30% of patients will find a matching donor in their family. The remaining 70% turn to Be the Match Registry and its database of 22 million members who are willing to step up and save the life of a complete stranger. Tomorrow we will be in Liberty Plaza for Be the Match Day from noon until 3. Please join us. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise today to briefly bring up a subject matter that has been with us since the middle of last year, at least, and that is the subject of unemployment insurance benefits. I still am receiving plaintiff letters, emails, calls from constituents that have not had their unemployment benefits application processed. Good morning. My name is Kimberly Leanne Robinson. I've been attempting to get unemployment benefits since November 2020. Despite all my calls, emails, and messages, I haven't been able to reach anyone. These benefits are desperately needed to pay for basic needs like bills, food, and life-saving medication. I've run out of both resources and time. I'm facing utility cutoffs, food insecurities, medication shortage. Any assistance you could offer would be greatly appreciated. If you can't assist, please forward this message to someone who can. I am desperate. She then writes again, 15 days later, to say, my sister filed her unemployment last week, and as of today, she's received all of her back payments. I filed 4 months ago, and still nothing. What is possibly going on? Someone needs to call me. This is one person's plea from Southwest Atlanta, one of my constituents. This is just one of really countless pleas for us to help. And amidst all the other bills, all the other issues, the pace of the session, we must not turn our backs on people in need like this from a system that was set up to provide a bridge over troubled waters when someone loses their job out of no fault of their own. We're all challenged to take up this message and spread it directly to the commissioner at the Department of Labor, to anyone and everyone. And you know, there are remedies. I've said from this very well, we should mobilize National Guard people to come in like they've done in about 3 or 4 other states successfully, to come in, man the call centers, do some of the basic logjam breaking. These are people's lives. There are people living in their cars right now because our unemployment insurance system has failed them. I can't go home and face people and say, well, you know, luck of the draw, I guess yours just didn't get processed. There's a way to get this done, and there's more money in Washington to send down here to get this thing done. Join me, please, in sending the message to the Department of Labor. Do your job. Get these claims processed. We cannot allow people to be in the dire need that they are placed in by getting zero. One man, 300 calls he made to that department, a person I know. You all have constituents facing the same thing. Let's join together with our voices to say this must be resolved. Thank you.
You have a consent calendar of privilege resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Chair sees none. Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? Chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? You have a consent calendar of local bills before you. Mr. Secretary, are there any objections filed to any of the bills on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, there are no objections filed.
Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the Committee on State and Local Government, which is favorable to the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar? Chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. The questions on the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar, all those in favor will vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Hallway looks clear. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0, and the bills having received the requisite constitutional majority are therefore passed. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we table all the bills on the rules calendar.
The majority leader has moved that we table all the bills on the rules calendar. Is there objection? There is objection. Would the majority leader like to speak to his motion? It's not debatable. All right, there's objection. Mr. Secretary, will you please open the machines, vote yea or nay? I'm fine with it. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, or hallway clear? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 33, the nays are 14, and the motion to table all the bills on the calendar has passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th.
Mr. President, I move that we remove Senate Bill 182 from the table.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 182?
Senate Bill 182 by Senator Robertson of the 29th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 60 of Title 36 of the OCGA relating to general provisions applicable to counties and municipal corporations so as to define the term fence detection system to limit the ability of counties, consolidated governments, and municipalities to regulate or prohibit such systems. This completes the order, Mr. President.
The senator from the 29th has moved that Senate Bill 182 be taken from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is taken from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 29th to present Senate Bill 182.
Mr. President and colleagues, I ask for your favorable consideration on Senate Bill 182. What this does is this includes certain electric fences that are used in commercial properties as part of an alarm system, as an included part of that alarm system that requires no more additional permitting by the municipality where these fences are erected in order to protect the assets in warehouses, airports, and places like that. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 182? The chair sees none. Is there objection or agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill? All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 16th for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we take SB 113 from the table, please, sir.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 113?
Senate Bill 113 by Senator Harbin of the 16th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 25 of Title 33 of the OCGA relating to life insurance so as to provide for life insurers' requirement to review the National Association of Insurance Commissioners' Life Insurance Policy Locator Service, to provide for reporting, to provide for the Commissioner to prescribe reporting, to provide for a sunset provision for reporting requirements, to provide for enforcement. The Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burke of the 11th. Insurance and Labor offering the following substitute to Senate Bill 113, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 25 of Title 33 of the OCGA relating to life insurance so as to provide for life insurers' requirement to review the National Association of Insurance Commissioners' Life Insurance Policy Locator Service, to provide for reporting. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 16th has moved that Senate Bill 113 be removed from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is taken off the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 16th to present Senate Bill 113.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've looked at something very similar to this. This basically takes the policy locator that is run by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners and requires each insurance company for life insurance to check it on an annual basis and to notify a person that is hunting a policy within 90 days. It does have a sunset provision on it, which would allow them until 2025 that they would have to be mandatory to do that, but it helps people find what belongs to them, and it's a good bill.
You have no questions. He exited quickly. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 113? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection or agreement to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the pro tem for a motion.
I'd like to take 117 off the table, Mr. President. What is my motion? 117.
The pro tem has moved that
117 off the table, Mr.
Senate
President.
Bill 117 be removed from the table. Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 117 by Senator Miller of the 49th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 6 of Title 16, Article 1 of Chapter 10 of Title 17, Article 2 of Chapter 3 of Title 35, Title 42, and Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 49 of the OCGA relating to sexual offenses, procedure for sentencing and imposition of punishment, the Georgia Crime Information Center, penal institutions, and general provisions regarding the Department of Human Services, respectively, so as to revise the offenses of improper sexual contact by employer or agent in the first and second degrees. The Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th. The Senate Judiciary offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 117. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 6 of Title 16, Article 1 of Chapter 10 of Title 17, Article 2 of Chapter 3 of Title 35, Title 42, and Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 49 of the OCGA. This completes the order, Mr. President.
The pro tem has moved that Senate Bill 117 be taken from the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and Senate Bill 117 is removed from the table. Chair recognizes the pro tem to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 117 will take certain forms of sexual battery that are today are treated as misdemeanors and treat them as felonies in situations where the victim is a minor under the supervision of a mentor, a coach, or a teacher. This will have the effect of adding these sexual predators, these sexual batterers. By any definition, they are offenders, and this will put them on the sex offender registry where they belong. I was shocked to find out in my community where an incident occurred that a teacher had an inappropriate sexual relationship with a student. Because that student went to a different school than the teacher, he could not be prosecuted under a felony statute. This is a loophole in the law, and I asked you to stand with me and close it. This bill passed out of judiciary without objection and is a good piece of legislation and good for all of Georgians. I'll stand for any questions, Mr. President, and yield the will if there are none.
You have no questions.
Vote green. Thank you, Mr. President.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 117? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Mr. Secretary, will you please close the machine? On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the pro tem for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to give special thanks to Mr. C.R. Chisholm of Clark County for coming to the Capitol yesterday to testify on this very important bill. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 17th for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that Senate Bill 107 be removed from the table.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 107 by Senator Strickland of the 17th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 12 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to post-secondary education grants for foster children and adopted children so as to provide for the waiver of tuition and all fees, including mandatory rooming and board fees for qualifying foster and adopted students by units of the University System of Georgia and the Technical College System of Georgia, subject to certain exceptions. The Senate Committee on Higher Education recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Tippins of the 37th. The Senate Committee on Higher Education offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 107, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 12 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to post-secondary education grants for foster children and adopted children to provide for the waiver of tuition and all fees, including customary rooming and board fees for qualifying foster and adopted students by units of the University System of Georgia. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 17th has asked for Senate Bill 107 to be taken off the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it's taken off the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 17th to present the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I bring to you Senate Bill 107. This bill provides a pathway for students coming out of our foster care system to have their expenses associated with college waived. We've all heard the statistics. We know the uphill climb that a young person faces when the circumstances of their childhood, something they had no control over, dictates their likelihood of success later in life. With Senate Bill 107, we're providing an extra hand to help pull up these young people, to give them a better chance of following a dream, having access to the higher education needed to reach that dream. And Mr. President, I want to thank you for your leadership over the past several years on issues such as this, for your work on this bill as well, your support of this bill. And let's continue to do all we can to help our children and our families in our foster care system in the state by supporting Senate Bill 107. I'm happy to take any questions.
Senator, you have no questions.
Thank you very much.
Does any other senator wish to speak for? Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 107? Chair sees none. Chair recognizes the senator from the 21st to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Colleagues, I come to speak in support of this bill. I want to thank the senator for the 17th for bringing this bill. And I would ask that we give unanimous support for this. These kids, when they come out of high school and they age out at 18, they need help from 18 to 22, and education is the best thing we can do for these foster kids and help them get into society, be productive, and get a job. So I would urge your support. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Thank you, Senator. Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 107? Chair sees none. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? We got one coming in. Don't hurt yourself. Don't pull a hamstring. You just broke a 200-year-old desk. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th for motion.
Mr. President, I move that Senate Bill 204 be removed from the table.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 204 by Senator Tippins of the 37th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to vocational, technical, and adult education so as to provide for the State Board of the Technical College System of Georgia to award high school diplomas, to provide for a pilot program by the State Board of Technical College System of Georgia. The Senate Committee on Higher Education recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Tippins of the 37th. The Senate Committee on Higher Education offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 204. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to vocational, technical, and adult education so as to provide for the State Board of the Technical College System of Georgia to award high school diplomas, to provide for a pilot program by the State Board of the Technical College System of Georgia. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 37th has moved that Senate Bill 204 be taken from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it's removed from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 37th to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, it is a sincere pleasure for me to bring you Senate Bill 204. I think this bill will do more to enhance the graduation rates in the state of Georgia and provide us a workforce that's well-trained more quickly than any other initiative that I've seen in 10 years that I've been here. What this bill does is authorizes Technical College System of Georgia to be able to grant high school diplomas in conformity with existing laws within the state of Georgia. What this bill also does is provide a seamless pathway with those students who choose to go into technical fields and know what their vocational desires are. This is truly a one-stop shop for technical training, and it gives us the most efficient and effective use of state resources. And that housing this with Technical College of Georgia, we're using existing infrastructure and resources so we don't have to create standalone programs. This will enable those who have dropped out of high school because of maybe some stigma that they have, they can get a high school diploma. Those who are adults can come back and get a high school diploma instead of a GED. And those students that are in high school that have reached certain academic achievement and are 16 years old can enroll in technical college. This bill will enable the citizens of Georgia to obtain a high school diploma and technical training and obtain a well-paying job and build Georgia's economy. Mr. President, if there are no other questions, I'll yield the word. I urge each of you to vote for this. This bill will move the state of Georgia ahead in education and in economic development.
You have a question. Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th for a question.
Senator Yield.
Yes, sir.
Senator, isn't it true that you worked with me and we worked together on this bill last year?
Yes, sir.
Senator, isn't it further true this is a bipartisan bill to make sure that students have an opportunity for economic development and further education?
47 people signed it. Nobody refused.
Thank you for bringing this forward.
You have no more questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. You will.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 204? The chair sees none. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Now all senators have voted. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute.
Game on.
Chair recognizes the majority whip for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we remove SB 47 from the table.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 47?
Senate Bill 47 by Senator Gooch of the 51st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 33 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to Georgia Special Needs Scholarship Act so as to revise the prior school year requirement to expand eligibility for students, to revise for the basis for calculating scholarship amounts. The Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Payne of the 54th. The whole thing?
Yep, well done to review procedure.
Education and Youth offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 47, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 33 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to Georgia Special Needs Scholarship Act so as to revise the prior school year requirement, to expand eligibility for students, to revise the basis for calculating scholarship amounts, to require annual parent surveys, to provide for a review procedure for scholarship calculations. Senator Gooch of the 51st offering the following Amendment 1. Amend the substitute to Senate Bill 47 by deleting licensed physician or psychologist on line 93 and inserting in lieu thereof the following: physician or psychologist licensed in this state. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 51st has asked that Senate Bill 47 be taken from the table. Is there objection? There is objection. All right, the objection is non-debatable. We'll go to the board. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will open the machine. This vote is to remove Senate Bill 47 from the table. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Hallways clear. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 31, the nays are 18. The motion is carried, and Senate Bill 47 is taken from the table. The chair recognizes the majority whip to present the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I bring to you today a very important piece of legislation known as SB 47. There's a lot of history with this topic that you're familiar with. Those of you that have been here for years will remember this discussion in the past. This legislation would ensure that all students with special needs have access to the Georgia Special Needs Scholarship. The Georgia Special Needs Scholarship is a 14-year program that currently serves 5,203 students across this state. This legislation has opened the doors for students with special needs to pursue a private school option when the public school just was not working for their individual needs. For the vast majority of students with special needs, 97 to 98% will best be served by their public school system. This scholarship provides opportunities when they are not getting what they need. Georgia established this program in 2007, and it based this program on the Florida McKay Scholarship for students with special needs. Florida, back in 2011, offered this to students with 504 plans who needed the opportunities that this scholarship today provides. We are a little late to make this change, but this legislation, SB 47, would do the same. This program is limited to students with special needs. This legislation would not change that. This legislation would ensure that all students with special needs have access to the educational option that they need and would cut down on some of the unintentional barriers in a program that has been operating for those 14 years. Specifically, students with a 504 plan or a licensed physician or psychological diagnosis for one of a list of limited qualifications would now qualify for this program, and they include in your bill, and I'll read those: attention deficit hyperactive disorder, known as ADHD, autism spectrum disorder, bipolar disorder, cancer, cerebral palsy, cystic fibrosis, deafness, Down syndrome, drug or alcohol abuse, dual sensory impairment, dyslexia, emotional or behavioral disorder, epilepsy, hearing impairment, intellectual disability, muscular dystrophy, specific learning disability, spina bifida, traumatic brain injury, visual impairment, or any rare disease identified by the National Institutes of Health's Genetic and Rare Diseases Information Center's list of rare diseases disorder. There is a floor amendment for your consideration, and this floor amendment came as a recommendation from the committee when this bill was vetted last week. It simply adds that a diagnosis be given by a Georgia licensed doctor. This legislation would also remove barriers for enrollment for those that are requalifying for the program, for public special needs preschoolers, and for those parents of students with special needs during the COVID period we had last year. This legislation would create a waiver from the one-year public school requirement for those who adopt or accept permanent guardianship of a student with special needs from foster care, giving these families the flexibility that they might need. Additionally, this legislation would make some helpful administrative changes to the program, including clarifying information for the parents about how the scholarship is calculated. Finally, while the Department of Education and the Governor's Office of Student Achievement publishes an annual report with metrics on the program, the legislation would increase transparency by asking the parents of participating students to complete an annual survey on their satisfaction with the program and with their school that would be made public in the report, and this would be administered by the Department of Education. Back in 2007, opponents of the legislation claimed that this scholarship would bring the demise of public education. They claimed it would bring a mass exodus from the public schools and cripple special education in our state. Has that happened to Georgia? No, it has not. I can assure you of that. Today, there are roughly 200,000 students that qualify for an IEP plan in Georgia. A little over 5,000 of those students qualified and actually took advantage of this scholarship last year. This program has been in place for 14 years with only 3% participation rate. There is a very low impact to the school systems and to the state budget in this program. Today, there are just a little over 50,000 students on a 504 plan. If the same percentage of students qualify and take advantage of this scholarship going forward, even if it's 3% like we've had for the 14 years that it's been in existence, we're talking about a little more than 1,000 additional students to the scholarship. Very small numbers considering the 1.7 million kids that are in public schools today. Mr. President, I encourage everyone here today to vote for the special needs kids in our state. This is not an open voucher system for Georgia. This is limited to special needs children, and I would love to see everybody in this chamber vote green for this bill. I'm happy to take questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Yes, I will.
Isn't it true and awfully shameful that certain groups that are supposed to represent some of our administration at the school systems and school boards at the school system are offering up misinformation to many sides or many people to hopefully divert the vote today?
That is a good question, Senator, and as you know, we get emails a lot from people from across the state and across this nation that are often uninformed and do not have the full picture of what a piece of legislation actually does. And I would encourage you to read the bill and listen to the testimony today and vote for the needy children of our state. And I think most people would agree with your vote.
Do you continue to yield?
I will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 6th for a question.
Will the senator yield?
I do.
Do you have a fiscal note associated with this?
There's not a fiscal note, but there's no way to know what the fiscal impact is going to be Depends on who you ask. But I would be one to tell you that there's a zero impact if you consider the fact that an FTE scholarship for, let's say the average is $6,500 per student. If you take your child from a public school and you move them out of state, then the school system's going to lose that $6,000. If they go to a private school under an EIP or a 504, they're going to transfer that same dollar amount that the public school would have gotten, and it would go to and follow the child. So there's literally no increase of spending to the state budget for that program. So I would say there's not an impact fiscal as far as the fiscal note goes.
Will the senator continue to yield?
I do.
With respect to line 76 through 79, can you explain that to me? I really don't understand it.
This deals with the fact that a lot of school systems last year during COVID were sent home in virtual schools, and they did not meet in class, and therefore they weren't counted as being present. And that's where the FTE counts come from, is when the kid is sitting in the classroom on a certain date of the year. And so this basically gives a one-year carve-out for those kids that did not get to attend school last year. They were taken out of their school classroom and either stayed home for virtual schooling or was put in a different school setting by their parent or by homeschool.
And with respect to that, why is that necessary?
We feel it's necessary that the parent has a choice of being able to keep their kid educated, keep them on track, keep them moving forward, learning whatever necessary. Some kids, and especially in the urban areas, were taken out of school and that are still out of school today. Some parents out in rural areas chose to, to take their kids to other school systems. Some chose to go to home schools, and some in maybe in the Atlanta area could have done the same, or they could have put their child in a private school. But we believe this is a choice of a parent, and we believe during this pandemic and during this national emergency, we should not punish the child or the parent, and especially those with special needs, and those are the ones who were impacted the worst during the lockdown last year.
Will the senator continue to yield?
I do.
And with respect to that, I still don't understand how this particular carve-out or provision actually supports the intent of the bill to provide money to every special need student in the state of Georgia. Wouldn't they already be entitled to it without this particular carve-out?
If they were enrolled in the public school for the prior 12 months, and they had the IEP, or in this case the 504, then they would have to meet that 12-month requirement. Last year, as you know, a lot of children were sent home. Some of those children with special needs could not do their work from home, so the parents had to make a decision to take that child to another school of their choice.
Will the senator yield?
Yes.
And that's the follow-up. So and let me see if I get this right. So you can have a child who is currently in private school, who basically applies for this scholarship, gets the money to pay for their private school tuition, a school that they've already chosen and that they're already attending. Isn't that correct?
You know, if you have a special needs child at home and they're not able to work on a computer in a virtual classroom, they can't keep up, they're falling farther and farther behind, I think a parent would do just about anything for their child. If this program was available last year, they would have qualified for it as well. So I think this is a carve-out for a one-time scenario when we're under a national emergency. And I think, Senator, considering the compassion that we have for our children in our state, this is the right thing to do.
Will the senator yield for one final question?
Mm-hmm.
So just to make it clear, and I do have a special needs child at home. With respect to this, what we're talking about is parents who pulled their children, and we can argue whether or not this is about special needs kids or not, but we'll get there. With respect to qualifying for this plan, you can have a student who is already in private school, already attending private school, probably face-to-face, and what they'll be able to do is then come to the state once this is effective and actually get their tuition paid for.
You know, if people want to game the system, I guess they game the system in other ways in our state. You can say that in welfare, you could say that in unemployment, we can go down the list. But I do believe that most of these children that are in need have parents that love them, and I think they're doing what's best for their child. And I think it's time that we step up and try to provide the best tools that we can for those parents. And I too have a child that would qualify under this program, but he's a graduating senior this year, so he won't benefit from it. But I could tell you that 12 years ago, if this program had been in place and I was in a place where I could have used the help, I would have taken advantage of it. It's tough as a parent. As y'all know, those of you that have special needs children know how tough it is to be able to take them to the school that can do the best for them. And I would hope that you would vote for these children and not as much about the argument on who has the money and who doesn't. This program applies to every Georgian that qualifies under this program, either an EIP or the 504. We've seen that the numbers are very low. It's 3% or less of those who qualify that are taking advantage of it. There's no reason whatsoever, there's no indication that it will be abused going forward.
Do you continue to yield?
I will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th for a question.
Senator, yield.
I do.
Senator, isn't it true, as you already stated, that you have a child that would qualify under IEP?
Yes.
Senator, further yield.
No, I'm sorry, 504, not IEP.
Senator, as we discussed before, isn't it true that I have a son as well that's on a spectrum disorder?
I do believe that.
And as fathers and parents of children that fit this, isn't it true we would do anything possible to make sure they have an equal opportunity as other students?
Absolutely. I have done all I can do for my child, and I know you have as well.
For the yield?
Yes.
Isn't it true that each and every person in here that's a parent feels that they as parents should make sure that whether the child is in public school or private school or even a homeschool situation, whatever is best fit to make sure that that child has an opportunity that when they graduate high school, they can be a productive part of society and they can then contribute and reach their full potential?
Absolutely.
Thank you for bringing this forward,
Yes,
Senator.
sir. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th for a point of personal, or for a question.
Thank you. Does Senator yield?
I do.
Freudian slip.
Your bill broadens special needs vouchers to public school students under the 504 plans, isn't that right?
That is correct.
Do you know how many public school students there are under that plan?
There are currently 1.7 million schools or 1.7 million students in public schools today. There are roughly 5,000 students that qualify and take advantage of this scholarship under current law. So there's 5,000 out of 1.7 million. That's less than 0.3% of the total population of school kids in Georgia. 0.3%.
But isn't it true that there are 58,000 public school students that are currently under the 504 plans?
There are, and
Isn't
there
that
are
right?
200,000 that are under the EIP program. But only 5,000 of those 200,000 have utilized this scholarship program, and it's been in law for 14 years.
And if you could clarify for us as well, you have language in the bill around the children of the military.
Yes.
So how are they covered by this?
Well, if you have a soldier that's moved here from Fort Dix, New Jersey to Fort Benning in Columbus, and that family has a child who is under a 504 plan and they qualify under the requirements that are met in this law, then their child would immediately qualify for this tuition assistance. You wouldn't have to wait the 12 months because they're serving our nation, they're moving in and out. Sometimes every 2 years a soldier would move to another base. And so we believe we ought to help our soldiers and help our military, and this is one way to do that.
Well, Senator, if you further yield,
I do.
What is the assessment for how these children that would move into private school settings, how they fare there? What kind of assessment? What kind of return on investment? Who's minding the store? Who's looking after the children that move out of the public school system?
Sure.
Where there's a lot of provision for scrutiny, accounting, reporting, data gathering, and transparency.
Good question. The Department of Education spells out the specifications, and they also qualify the schools that would accept these children and accept these tuition scholarships. And so the Department of Education is highly involved with that. We're adding language in there for the transparency part of it to get the feedback from the parents on an annual basis. You heard me in my opening comments say that there would be a survey done by the parents. I believe the best filter and the best feedback you can get on any government program is from the user, and the user being the taxpayer. I believe a parent would be the first one to come down here and say, this program's not working for my child, so I don't recommend you continue to operate this way. I think you should make changes. We haven't heard that. I have not had one email from any citizen opposed to this legislation or the previous special needs scholarship. The only opposition I have gotten is from one school board member this week that texted me. I spoke to him briefly this morning, explained what the bill does, and he understood why we were doing it. He just doesn't support a full-blown voucher program, and this is not a full-blown voucher program. This is only for special needs children.
But is it not true that this bill vastly expands the definition of special needs children?
You know, I disagree with that, but you have your opinion.
And is it also true that, and we do have to look at who's gaming the system. Isn't it concerning that a family that's already can afford private school and has their child in private school then comes back and gets public dollars out of the public school system to replace their private dollars that they had decided to spend on that child?
You bring up a good point. Every time we pass a bill down here, somebody's trying to game it. Either it's a tax credit or some kind of a tax deduction, or whether it's, you name it. There's all kinds of loopholes in our code. This bill is set forth to help people in need, not the rich. It's for anyone. Some of us in this room already take their children to private schools. I see some of you, and you drive in your nice $100,000 Mercedes-Benz or your expensive vehicle. I'm not, you know who you are. But before you got here this morning, you dropped your child off at a private school. So you actually cost the public school systems money yourselves, because they didn't get that FTE money because they weren't enrolled in that school system last October. And so we make those decisions. Wealthy people can do that. You're right. They can take their child to a private school. But the working class person, the people I represent back home, they don't have that privilege. They don't have that disposable income. This program will help those parents. And I think this is a good reason why the Democrats should be voting for this bill today.
Isn't it true that fair-minded people would disagree with that statement? Thank you.
You have your right. Yes, ma'am.
Do you continue to yield?
I will take another question.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th for a question.
Does the senator yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, is it not true that as a single father and me carrying my two children to public school, that the $6,000 FTE that my children used there in that school was money that I paid into the school as a property owner?
I believe you paid more than that each year. Yes, sir.
Senator, further yield?
I do.
Senator, is it not true that if either of my children would have been special needs students in the public schools with any of these issues, they would have most likely been ostracized, been subjected to excruciating peer pressure, and put in situations where they would have not been able to keep up and learn as well as the other students who did not suffer from these special needs?
We have heard that before, yes.
Does the senator yield for one more question?
I do.
Senator, is it not also true that these children, these special needs students that are subjected to these pressures, that the statistics are at least 50 to 60% of these students end up in the pipeline to prison that we always talk about and become part of the mass incarceration that inflicts our country today?
The senator knows of which he speaks. I did not know that statistic, but thank you for sharing it.
Thank you, sir.
You have no more questions.
Thank you. I'll come back and close in a little bit.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in opposition to Senate Bill 47. We have fiercely debated various forms of private school voucher legislation in this chamber many times before. And each time, the conclusion of education experts and stakeholders was the same. These voucher programs are bad for kids, bad for families, bad for schools, and bad for Georgia. Supporters of this bill are using this moment of uncertainty and crisis in our country and in our school systems to promote a long-standing agenda under the guise of assisting students with special needs. The facts have not changed. Private school vouchers undermine our public schools by diverting needed resources away from the public school system that educates over 90% of Georgia's children to fund the education of the select few whose families will be able to afford to pay the extra costs of private schooling. The truth is that these private school vouchers do not adequately serve middle and low-income students because the cost of tuition and fees at schools that accept vouchers generally exceeds the amount of the voucher, making voucher schools unaffordable for these families. That's before you even get to the fact that no transportation, for example, would be provided. So this scheme affords those with resources extra privileges at a cost to all students and taxpayers, and will further segregate education along racial and class lines. Making a misguided bill much worse, the system proposed in this bill is easily abused. Under Senate Bill 47, to secure a voucher for a child, a parent would simply need a doctor's note or a Section 504 designation, both of which can be easily obtained by parents who can afford out-of-pocket psychiatry fees or otherwise manipulate the system. Families with the resources, the know-how, and who live in proximity to private schools will be the beneficiaries of the expanded eligibility, while rural and working-class taxpayers will be left footing the bill for a program whose ultimate cost we can't even accurately calculate. The doctor's note doesn't even have to be for an educational disability. And it can be any doctor now in Georgia under the amendment, including one found on the internet who has never laid eyes on the child. Such schemes are already rampant on the internet for the procurement of ADHD medication. So any member of this body who optimistically believes that this program won't be abused is either operating with willful ignorance or wants as many families as possible, no matter their own financial means, to have a taxpayer-funded private school education. The latter is the much more likely explanation for the way this legislation is written. So Senate Bill 47 invites abuse at the outset and then adds insult to injury by not requiring any additional evaluation of the student over their lifetime of learning to even determine if the student still has a condition. This is more evidence that the bill is a pretext to fund private school vouchers generally. But the real crux of the problem with Senate Bill 47 and voucher bills generally is that they take the money that is needed to properly educate students with special needs and all students in the public schools. We currently have a hole to the tune of $400 million in our education budget. We have only fully funded the baseline amount for public schools twice. That's 2 times in 19 years, in the past 19 years. Meanwhile, the amount that we are shipping to private schools has gone up every single year. More evidence of the true motivations behind this legislation. The low funding for public schools makes it more difficult to serve children with needs like ADHD in the public schools, because what those students really need to thrive are small class sizes with low student-teacher ratios. But by diverting millions to private schools, we ensure that the funding will remain inadequate to properly serve those children. Many more children with ADHD, to continue that example, will remain in the public schools than will utilize the voucher, especially in rural areas. So therefore, children with ADHD will receive a worse education in the public schools, which are, let me remind us, the schools that we are constitutionally mandated to fund, the only schools we are constitutionally mandated to fund, because of the other ADHD kids that will take the money that is needed to improve the schools for all kids and take it to private school. So we bleed our schools, and then we turn around and say the schools aren't properly meeting the needs of every special needs child. And that becomes part of a self-fulfilling cycle that benefits voucher proponents and the wealthier families they serve. Each expansion of the voucher programs leaves the public schools with less funds and less services. The very argument that the proponents then use to justify the expansions. And the blame for all of that lies squarely on our shoulders. Over the past few years that I've been a member of this chamber, we have passed with great fanfare new programs to screen elementary school age children for dyslexia and to provide scholarships for higher education for students from families for whom the high cost of higher ed college tuition is out of reach. Both of those programs I was excited to vote for. Both of them are very needed. Only 35% of Georgia's third graders read at a proficient level, 35%. And research has identified dyslexia and other learning differences as a key factor in that abysmal number. As to access to higher education, it's universally understood that Georgia needs a more skilled workforce. To accomplish that goal, we need many more students to be able to matriculate to higher education. So putting the dyslexia screening program and the higher ed scholarships into state law is a good thing. But the promise of those two programs has not been realized because they have not been funded. And here we are giving money that we could use to fund them to private schools for a small select group of students. We may as well repeal those bills and tell the citizens of Georgia the truth. Our priority in the Georgia State Senate is giving kids who can already afford it a subsidized private education. We recently passed Senate Bill 6, a measure I support to review the effectiveness of our tax breaks. Georgia taxpayers logically question our sincerity in that regard because here we are, preparing to pass a huge expansion of a program that already has incredibly weak oversight and accountability. That fact was pointed out just in January by the Department of Audits and Accounts when they assessed one of our existing voucher programs. The conclusion was very clear. This has weak transparency and weak accountability. This legislation has weak transparency and basically no oversight or accountability. If we profess to take accountability for taxpayer dollars seriously, we should vote no on this bill and pass the measures needed for transparency and accountability for the existing vouchers and called for by our Department of Audits and Accounts and implement Senate Bill 6. Let me also add that in the existing special needs voucher, some of the private schools already taking the money are not even accredited. They're not even accredited. It is a joke that we pass anything in here calling for taxpayer accountability or any of this when we're sitting here debating something like this with zero oversight and accountability and wide open for fraud and abuse. When something's wide open for fraud and abuse and people realize it, guess what they think? They think that's how they wanted it. They don't think, oh, I shouldn't really game the system. They don't think it's gaming the system. Because they would say, and I'm telling you, this thing's wide open for fraud and abuse. So then they assume when you vote green that that's what you want, by the way. It is our obligation to ensure the stability and success of our public schools and their special needs programs, particularly as Georgia schools face the COVID-19 crisis, the impacts of which will be felt long after the pandemic, before we turn to a program that we know will only benefit a small minority. Otherwise, we send the unmistakable and unfortunate and apparently true message that we care more about the educational needs of a few wealthy families in Georgia than we do about everyone else. Mr. President, I'm happy to answer any questions, and if there are none, I will yield the word.
You have questions. The chair recognizes the senator from the 41st for a question.
Thank you, Senator. Do you yield?
Yes, I yield to my friend from DeKalb.
Senator, isn't it true In the 1960s and 70s, segregation academies were created to ensure that white children did not go to school with black children.
Yes, it is. And as a matter of fact, one time, one of the most devastating stories I ever heard, and that was here actually, and it was in DeKalb. In addition to the cropping up of segregation academies, this gentleman, who's a noted civil rights speaker, said when he moved to Stone Mountain, which is I believe where you hail from, his public school was 80% white when he was a freshman. And by the time he graduated, it was 85% black. That's how quick the white flight was.
Senator, do you further yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that as a result of the flight of white students, our public school systems were decimated and underfunded?
I would agree with that. Yes, I agree that that has been something that has hung over public schools, the discussion of public schools, our policy orientation to them to this day in this state.
Do you further yield?
Yes.
Doesn't this bill further take money away from public schools, continuing to decimate them as they once did in the 1960s and 70s?
I agree with you.
Thank you, Senator.
Do you continue to yield?
Yes, I do.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, yield for a
Yes.
series of questions.
Yes, sir.
Senator, isn't it true that the public schools have been under tremendous amount of pressure, especially through the pandemic, to be able to perform?
I think they've had a lot on their plate during the pandemic. I would agree with that. Yes.
Okay. So, Senator, further yield?
Sure.
So, taking that into consideration, isn't it true that many of the families that their kids are at public school, but the kids qualify under what we're talking about here, the 504 IEP, these schools aren't equipped to be able to handle the vast number of kids within that because they're under, to your admission, they're already under a tremendous amount of pressure.
So what I would say is, first of all, they can never be able to, as I stated in my remarks, adequately serve kids with special needs as they are legally mandated to do if we never fund them properly, A. And B, I also contend that this bill doesn't even require a special need.
So,
I mean,
Senator,
it like facially does, but it's a farce,
so Senator, further yield?
Sure.
So this isn't necessarily a funding bill because we're not stripping away funding from that. We're talking about right now kids that qualify that may, in some cases, it's already been testified that these are kids, some of which are already in private schools, so their funding is not already in these schools. So, Senator, would you not agree that many families, whether, and I know it's been discussed here, whether they're white flight or whether they're rich kids or not, but many of the middle class and lower income families have some of these same students in their families. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and the vast majority of those will stay in the public schools where we will be inadequate. We will not be able to serve them adequately because we will never get the low class sizes and low student-teacher ratios you need to serve an ADHD kid because we're taking all this money away from the schools.
So, Senator, further yield?
Certainly.
So the same constituents I have in my district that you have in your district, those families that have some of these same students, and some of which maybe struggle because they may be single moms, single dads, they're struggling with income, they've been affected by pandemic, lost their jobs, you're in favor of not allowing them to be able to take those students and be parents and place them in a private school where the class sizes are already smaller?
No,
is that what I'm hearing?
What you're hearing is those families are not going to be able to take advantage of this anyway because the voucher amount isn't anywhere near the amount to cover most private school tuitions. In fact, most families will probably just use this to contribute to the annual fund at their private school, per the senator from the 6th example, and hand that right over.
Senator, I appreciate you bringing that up. A further yield.
Sure.
So, Senator, isn't it true that my children go to a public or a private school, as does yours?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Senator, is it not true that I serve on a foundation at a private school, that we have a scholarship fund, as most Christian schools do, to be able to provide scholarships to some of these students that come in? However, it has a participation requirement in it, which is a small amount. Is that not true?
I don't know how your school does it.
Is it not
I can't
further true?
respond to that.
Most of these schools have a small participation in it?
I have no idea.
It is true.
Okay.
Senator, is further yield that this voucher would many times cover that, which then would nullify the claim that these families
Well-
would not be able to afford to have their students there.
Even if that were true, we are still picking a very small subset at the expense of everybody else who will remain at the public schools, be inadequately served, and also that particularly is true in rural Georgia.
So, Senator, for the yield?
Sure.
I heard you earlier talk about this is only going to benefit a small amount of minorities. So, would you not agree with me that if we save one child, or two children, or five, or whatever that qualification is, a small amount, it's worth us investing that? Or are
Wait,
we
so
saying
you're
it's all or
saying
nothing?
we should better educate 5 kids instead of better educating 1.7 million kids? I don't agree with you, no.
Senator, are you stating right now that we're not educating kids in public school very well?
I am, yes.
Senator, further yield.
Yes.
I would submit to you
Special
that...
needs kids, yeah, yes, I don't think we are.
Senator,
I don't think we're doing what we can.
Senator, further yield.
Sure.
Senator, I don't think we're globbing those all together. You're talking apples and oranges. First, I heard we talk about the special needs kids. This bill provides an opportunity for the parents to make a decision to where it's best to put those children so that they can have a productive life. Now what you're talking about, Senator, is it not true that you're talking about how these public schools are educated because we're going to affect their funding, which are two separate things. Is it not true?
Well, no, as I stated earlier, for example, we have only 35% of third graders who can read at proficiently at grade level. The former senator from the 9th took up a project from the former senator for the 40th to put this dyslexia screening thing into law. We all pass it, as I said, with much fanfare, and nothing's happened, and nothing will happen. So we're gonna have 65% of kids who can't read, and we're gonna send millions to a few who, most of whom can already pay for private school.
Senator, further yield.
Sure.
So what I understand is that right now, yes, we have some programs that are there in place, that there's a discussion about whether they're properly funded. We have current public schools with many great teachers and great schools and educators that are trying to do their job, that there could be a discussion about whether there needs to be additional funding. But today we're talking about special needs children and the ability to give them the hope for a future, and you're stating that we should not do that because we have some other things going on. So you would say to your constituents in your district, you're not in favor of helping those families?
So
Is that what I hear?
first of all, there's a fix, as you know, a fixed pie of public funding, okay? But secondly, what I'm saying is I don't agree that this is limited to kids that truly have special needs in any way, shape, or form, A. And then B, yes, I am saying that the more money we ship to any private school, we lessen and erode and eliminate our chances of doing other things that we have apparently falsely professed that we would like to do. But that rings hollow when we don't do it, and instead we send money to private schools.
Senator, one final question, if you'll
Sure,
yield.
of course.
So again, I want to make sure I'm clear. You're saying to your constituent base, many of which I would say the families have just as many families that are struggling through the pandemic and or job opportunities for them to meet their basic needs, that you would say, no, I do not want you to have an opportunity to make a decision to put your special needs child into a private school because it's going to disrupt the whole, which in many cases, especially my district, those educators are already doing a good job. You would tell those families that you're not interested in supporting them? Is that right?
I don't agree. I disagree with several aspects of the premise of your question. First of all, yes, what we are charged with doing, our constitutional responsibility, is to have a public school system that meets the needs of all children and fund it. That is our job. Everything else you're talking about is outside of job number 1. And when you are failing at job number 1, let's not talk about job number 2. You want to talk about how much it would really cost to adequately send every child to the school they chose? If that's what you want to talk about, okay, we can have that conversation, but we will need to spend 4 times as much on education as we do right now. And the minute the majority party wants to talk about that, I would be delighted to have that conversation. Mr. President, I'm happy to yield if there are no more questions.
You have more questions.
All right.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th for a question.
Thank you. Senator, do you yield?
I do yield.
Wonderful. Isn't it true that having an individualized education plan or an IEP is one of the qualifying factors for gaining this waiver or gaining access
It
to it?
is under our current special needs voucher. It is not under this legislation. It is one of the ways you could get it, but there are other ways which don't currently exist in law.
Understood. Is access to this waiver also tied to the requirement to waive rights for accommodation under an IEP to which this child is entitled?
That is true. So if you go to a private school, and I mentioned actually that not even all of them that we are currently sending money to are even accredited, you waive all those rights.
And isn't it true, do you further yield?
Yes, I do.
Isn't it true that this waiving of the IEP is permanent after it's waived the initial time?
That's right. And a lot of families don't understand that once they waive, that they come back and say, oh, well, they didn't do this and they didn't well, sorry, you've gone to a private school. They're not required to do any of those things. Those rights only exist under federal law for public schools.
Thank you. Senator, do you yield for one final question?
Yes, absolutely.
Isn't it true that private school vouchers often fund poorer quality schools?
It is.
In that these programs lack, as you noted, accountability and oversight, and could in fact lack the resources to accommodate the special needs that this bill purports to provide.
I agree with that, and research actually demonstrates that they perform more, schools accepting vouchers overall perform more poorly than the regular public schools do.
Thank you, Senator.
Do you continue to yield?
Yes, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
I yield.
Is it true that private school foundations give out scholarships?
Yes, some of them do. We have this other voucher, which is actually the one I was referencing with the January 2021 audit and account report, which is the school student organization voucher, which are those organizations.
So you continue to yield?
Yes.
So we can call in a question as to why we would need state dollars if we already have if they're already having a mechanism
Are you talking about actually, I shouldn't answer you in a question, but are you talking about an actual nonprofit that takes no taxpayer money?
Yes.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the other voucher program we had. Yes, we do have those. We have charitable organizations that help in our state with many things.
Does Senator continue to yield?
Yes.
Is it true that these vouchers could also fund, let's say, after-school programs, uniforms, those things that we are not getting in public schools currently?
Yes, the senator is correct. Another thing that adds insult to injury in the legislation is the families can use the money for all kinds of things that public school students don't get. You can't pay for your uniforms are not covered in the public schools. You have to do the car washes and the brownie bakes to raise money for the team. Not here. Kids going to private school just pay up for all of it with their state voucher.
Does the senator continue
Yes.
to yield? I can attest to that. Paying for football fees cost us, about $700 almost a year. We want to give money to private schools. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't understand why we would be treating them so unequally on that point, actually.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. You talked a lot about funding, which is really at the core. I'm going to get this mask off. At the core of this question, can you speak to a high level as far as it relates to the budget in the state of Georgia, how much money we spend on K through 12 education within $1 billion or $2 billion, or even as a percentage?
So it would depend on, are you talking just our state budget, or are you also talking the federal money?
Just the state side. We'll get to the.
I mean, within $1 billion or $2 billion, it's something like 12 or 13 billion.
Yeah, so it's just under 10. It's 37% of the state budget.
I was being generous with us.
Yeah, no worries. So 37% of the state budget currently goes through K through 12 education. You mentioned spending 4 times as much, which obviously would not be possible. I think you were being facetious with that. But could you outline for this body the other buckets of funding as it relates to state, local, and federal funding as it funds education?
So, I mean, obviously, that's another issue with the bill is, so the student utilizing the voucher and their family would take the state funding, but then they would forfeit the local and federal funding that normally would be provided for their education. So they would forfeit that money, and I don't know the totals on that.
Why is that an issue? Do you further yield? If you do, why is it an issue that they forfeit the local money and the local money stays in the school district? You mentioned earlier your students are in private school. if in mine or not. Your students are in private school, assuming we were in the same district, which we're not, but hypothetically, you taking your students out of public school and putting them in private school actually leaves more of the local tax digest money in the district to spend on my kids. Is that not true, Senator?
No, I do not believe that that is true. That is not how the analysis of public school funding works, because public school funding is based on enrollment. So even if you retained some smaller piece of the local funding, which in and of itself would still be based on enrollment, you've lost the state and federal.
Senator,
so I don't agree with that at all, no.
Can you explain to me how local funding is based on enrollment? Because local funding is based on tax digest, and it is not based on an FTE like the state funding is.
That's true. It's not directly based on FTE. So first of all, if we can agree that you would lose funding based on enrollment from the other two primary sources, we can talk about the local funding. The local funding, that of course is set by the school board with the millage rate. They still, of course, can tie that. And it's not directly in the same FTE, but these are all parts of the analysis the school board would take into account when they decide where to set the millage rate.
Do you further yield?
Yes.
When you took your kids out of public school or put them in private school, when they enrolled for private school in lieu of public school, did the DeKalb County Board of Education lower the millage rate?
The DeKalb County Board of Education has lowered the millage rate a few times, actually, over the last few years. I do not think it has anything to do with me or my students. And let me just say, because there have been a bunch of pointed questions at me, there seems to be a lot of irritation in this chamber that I oppose this bill, but I have an ADHD child in private school. So let me just get that out on the table. Let me tell you, that's one of the reasons, and the crux of my speech last time was about that point. There is no way my family should get a cent to send my child to private school when we have limited tax dollars and we can afford it just fine. So A, let's put that out there. And B, if we properly funded ADHD programs in the public schools, then my son could have gone to public school, but we don't, and here we are. Which is another reason I opposed the bill. Yes,
do you further yield?
Yes, I do.
You mentioned earlier that we're not properly funding, therefore, in answer to Senator Thompson's question, therefore we're not properly educating students, particularly with special needs. I don't know the provision under which you made the decision to send your kids to private school. My kids are not all old enough to send them to private school, but I can imagine if I had a dyslexic child and I wanted to seek, for example, Orton Gillingham education, which is life-changing for dyslexia children.
Wouldn't that be the thing that we should be funding and aren't? The Orton Gillingham dyslexia program that I've mentioned several times?
So I'll finish my question if you don't mind.
Yes, I want you to.
So knowing that we already spend 37% of our state funding on the public schools and that you say that we would need to go to 4 times that, which my math would say is 134% of our state budget, that would only go towards public schools, to the public school system, which say we cut that in half, that you wanted to just double it.
That's not, so what I meant was, and if you want to finish, that's fine.
No, you're,
I just want to, okay, so what I meant was, if we really were going to institute a educational model where the money just follows the child so that every family could pick the exact school they thought was adequate for their needs, and that's the way we funded everything, I believe it probably would cost about 4 times as much. That would essentially assume not having a public school system the way we do now.
Okay. Do you further yield for one last question?
Absolutely.
If your student is, forget you, I feel like we're picking on you, just the fact that it was, you mentioned you're in private school. Pretend that my 4-year-old who goes into kindergarten next year may be in private school. Isn't it true that the state today, for her, if she were to enter kindergarten, allocates that FTE based on head count? We're not funding an institution. We're not funding buildings. This is not a block grant, if you will, that we're just putting X percentage of money. We have a formulaic process here. And if my student chooses, if I should say my wife and I choose private school for my daughter, that money does not go to Forsyth County schools, period.
That is true.
So
yes.
if I were to choose that and the local money stays there, take the special needs out of it, how is Forsyth County losing money by my choice to go to a private school when the local money stays there? I'm still paying my $10,000 a year in property tax.
Right, so
Isn't it best for Forsyth County from a fiscal situation that my child never enters a Forsyth County school door?
Well, my light has gone off, but I will, if it's
Sure.
okay with the president, yes, I don't agree. I think that's wrong, and here's why. First of all, there is money that would have gone to the public school that isn't from the state, because your child goes to private school. There is money that would have gone to the public school but isn't from the federal side of things. And you still have to stand up and run a system. And so the point is often made that you still have facilities costs, you still have teacher salaries, you still have pensions, you still have lighting, you still have HVAC. So there's no easy way to, so I think there may be a little bit of money that would meet your comment, but I think the larger buckets, it harms the schools from all the analyses I've read.
Thank you for indulging my questions. I
Thank
see
you.
your red light's
Thank
on.
you,
so-
Mr. President. I'll yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. The chair recognizes the senator from the 6th to speak to Senate Bill 47.
Thank you, Mr. President. So one of the things I've been doing this year, especially after the year of COVID, and the loss and the seriousness and where we are as a state, I've been looking at bills kind of through a different lens, and I ask myself, so what does this bill do, right? What does it do? And why is it needed? What is the problem we're trying to solve? And does this solve it? So let's kind of walk back on that. Purportedly, this bill is about providing special needs children with the educational services they need, right? That somehow special needs children, and we know this, the parents of special needs children, sometimes need specialized educational services, right? All right. That's not what this does. Under current law, if a child has an IEP, they can get one of these scholarships. So that's, with respect to special needs children, it's already the law. Now, folks may say, well, what about this extension to 504 plans? Well, let's talk about what a 504 plan is versus an IEP. So with respect to an IEP, it's for students with disabilities who require specialized instruction, right? So if you have an IEP, that's when a school has to provide specialized instruction because of some special need you have, all right? That's already current law. So let's kind of put that over here. This expands this to those with 504 plans. And we've kind of heard that batted around. So what is a 504 plan? Or what child kind of qualifies under a 504 plan? And basically, it's for children with some type of disability that don't need special instructions. And I think that's important, okay? And the reason they normally have a 504 plan is because they just want to make sure, parents, they want to have the assurance that they're going to receive equal access to public education if they need it, right? So we're already taking care of the special needs students that need special instruction, okay? Now we're going to expand it to 504 plan kids who don't need specialized instruction. And then we're going to go even further. We're going to expand this to children who fall under a panoply of various disorders, situations, diseases, and the like. Drug or alcohol abuse kind of gets you a scholarship into private school. Never heard of that. And not only that, but this is just the minimum. This is the minimum. The Board of Education can basically come up with and deem anything they want to be a condition that would qualify a child to get this scholarship. And this is just the minimum. You just have to have drug or alcohol abuse to go to a private school, just minimally. There could be other things. And with respect to the 504 plan and even the IEP, in questioning, it became clear that what parents are doing is that they are waiving their rights. Now, this is important. As a parent of a child with special needs, an IEP guarantees that student in a public school system that they're going to be able to get the services they need. Same thing with the 504 plan, that they're going to be able to access public education if they need it. And so under this bill, if you take the money for this scholarship program, you are basically waiving your rights under the law. I don't think a lot of parents would even understand that that is actually what they would be doing if they took this money, especially if they're just trying to help their kid. You know, in Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare, "A rose by any other name would smell as sweet." And that reference is often used to imply that the name of things do not affect what they are. And let me be clear, this bill purporting to be a bill for special needs children who already qualify, that have IEPs, that purports to be a bill for special needs children to provide them a scholarship. That's not what this is. You can call it whatever you want. You can pull on the heartstrings and try to make the men and women in this chamber think that if you vote against this, this is a vote against special needs children. How dare you? That ain't what this is. This is a backdoor private school voucher program. That is all it is. So I agree that we should support special needs children throughout this state. I have fought as hard as I can for those with dyslexia to try to have a universal reading method, to put the money behind it in terms of identifying these children and mediating them. Push, push, push. Those are the programs we should be talking about. Those are the programs I should be up here talking about and arguing for and pushing for and having the funding for. And instead, we're up here talking about private schools and saying, you know what, if you went to private school last year, oh, good, we're going to give you a little subsidy. That's outrageous. And the whole idea, I love the whole, people who lost their jobs during the pandemic, single moms just trying to make ends meet, 2 nickels rubbing them together. Let me tell y'all something. Private schools in Atlanta, we're talking $20,000 to $30,000 annually, and that is base cost. And so you're going to give somebody $7,000, somebody who's making minimum wage or lower than that, and you're going to say, here you go, honey. Isn't that nice? Don't you feel good now? This is about people who can already afford private school. This isn't about special needs children because we already have a law that covers that. This is basically, like I said, just a backdoor voucher program. They haven't been able to get it over the line before, so they're going to try to wrap it in the language of special needs children. That's an outrage. That's an outrage. Look, I want to take care of special needs children. Believe me, it's one of the things that I am passionate about in this state because I can think about all of the kids that I graduated with, went to school with in Dodge County, who people thought were dumb, stupid, ignored, pushed away. They were dropouts. And really, if they had just been identified in terms of having dyslexia or having another learning difference and could have been remediated, they would be in a much different situation today. Let's talk about fully funding public education. Let's talking about doing our duty under the Georgia Constitution. That's the one thing we have to do, is to provide an adequate public education to the students of the state. Once we do that, yeah, we can talk about some gravy, but we ain't there yet. I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 47? For what purpose does the senator from the third? Chair recognizes the senator. For what purpose does the majority whip rise?
Mr. President, I move the question.
Majority Whip has moved to the question, to move for the question, previous question. Is there objection? There is objection. There's no debate. All those in favor of moving the previous question, vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. For those senators entering the chamber, this is a vote to move the previous question. Have all senators voted? Hallway looks clear. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 31, the nays are 21, and this body has moved for the previous question. Previous questions ordered, and now we will take up amendment number 1. Would the Majority Whip like to close debate? Majority Whip is recognized to close debate on the amendment and the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I encourage you to vote for the amendment, and I believe both sides of this argument will vote for the amendment as well. We heard a lot of emotional talking here today. We continue to hear money, 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 money. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to help on both sides of that issue. Let's put the money into the state budget to help these kids that are in need. But this is a way to do it as well. We need you to support our kids in our state. 1.7 million kids are important. The special needs kids are important, and we need to help them all. So I'd encourage you to vote for this bill, and we move it to this House. Thank you.
All right, we'll take up amendment number 1. The question is on the adoption of amendment number 1 by the senator from the 51st. Is there objection? There is no objection, and amendment number 1 is adopted. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Chair hears none. The committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 30, the nays are 23. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 59 be removed from the table.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption of Senate Bill 59.
Senate Bill 59 by Senator Albers of the 56th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to elementary and secondary education so as to provide for additional QBE funding for each full-time equivalent student with a local charter school. The Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Payne of the 54th. Education and Youth offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 59, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to elementary and secondary education so as to provide for additional QBE funding for each full-time equivalent student with a local charter school, to provide for a maximum amount of such funding available to each local charter school, to provide for direct allocation of appropriated funds to local charter schools by the State Board of Education. Amendment 1 by Senator Parent of the 42nd offers the following amendment to Senate Bill 59 by deleting lines 144 to 148 and inserting in lieu thereof the following. Amount of such stipend shall be calculated on an annual basis and shall be equal in amount that is 20% of the local charter school's prior year facility costs provided. However, that the facility stipend for a local charter school does not exceed $25,000 per year. By deleting from line 149 the following pursuant in this paragraph and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
The senator from the 56th has moved that Senate Bill 59 be taken from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and the bill is removed from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 56th to speak to Senate Bill 59 and Amendment Number 1 that he has co-signed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to begin by thanking you, our Lieutenant Governor, and your office for your assistance on this bill, as well as all the interested parties that came together to help perfect this piece of legislation. This is really just a cleanup bill to help out our charter schools and systems. I am very fortunate that my two boys went through Fulton County Public Schools, had a great education, and they are celebrated as one of the best charter systems I think, actually, in the entire nation. They do a wonderful job, and this is to bring some parity in different sections of this bill with schools and systems. So to begin with, in Section 1 of the bill you have in front of you, when the charter systems were first created, they were given an additional fee of 3.785% on top of QBE. But the school was a 3%. So what we're doing is bringing the schools up with the systems to be equal at that 3.785 in fiscal year 2023 to bring parity. Sections 2 and Section 3, again, a very simple cleanup. When a new charter school is started, they have an opportunity to join the state health benefit plan. They can either opt in or not. This simply gives them another bite at the apple when they renew that charter, typically on a 5-year window, to then decide again if they had chose not to then join the state health benefit plan, which I know we all want our teachers to have that opportunity. Always remember, charter schools are public schools. And then Section 4, we already mandate in law that if federal funds come down, that they are shared equally with a charter school as they are with the system. But this brings much needed transparency and collaboration into that effort. And last, but certainly not least, is to assure that if a school system has a vacant or sometimes called a mothballed school, that a charter could use that facility if it's available and it fits the needs they have. And if not, the school system will work with them to help provide a stipend, but no more than $25,000. And that amendment, and I want to thank the senator from the 42nd, we worked together closely on this bill and the amendment, would cap that at $25,000. So there would be good budget planning and it would not impact anything else. Also on the amendment you will see below, it just talks about how the stipend works. So this is a great bipartisan bill. If there are no questions, Mr. President, I would yield the well.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I appreciate your favorable vote.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 59? Chair, does the senator from the 42nd wish to speak to the amendment in addition? Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd to speak to amendment number 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. It would just be odd if I didn't speak to the amendment. Yeah, this just brings a little more clarity to the provisions of the bill about the facilities. If a local school has been offered a suitable building and turns it down, then they are not under the amendment, of which all parties are in agreement, not then entitled to receive the stipend. And also with the first section of the amendment, it just clarifies some of the language to bring it more in line with the way facilities funding actually is done, so that we don't create an asynchronistic system between the way the local schools have their facilities funded and the charter schools. So happy to answer any questions about that. If not, I will
You
yield
have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yield the ball.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 59 or the amendment? The chair sees none. The question is on, let's take up amendment number 1 first. Is the question's on the adoption of amendment number 1 by the senator from the 42nd. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and amendment number 1 is adopted. The question now is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute as amended? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 38, the nays are 15. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the distinguished rules chairman.
Mr. President, I ask request to pull Senate Bill 42 off the table.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 42?
Senate Bill 42 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 20-14-33 of the OCGA relating to indicators of quality of learning in individual schools and school systems, comparison to state standards, rating schools and school systems, providing information and uniform definition of dropout and below grade level. The Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Payne of the 54th. The Committee on Education and Youth offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 42, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 20-14-33 of the OCGA relating to indicators of quality of learning in individual schools and school systems, comparison to state standards, rating schools and school systems, providing information and uniform definition of dropout and below grade level, so as to provide that the school climate rating does not include discipline data. Senator Mullis of the 53rd offers the following Amendment 1, amend substitute 42 by inserting on its website on line 43 after published electronically. This completes the order, Mr. President.
The Rules Chairman has moved that Senate Bill 42 be taken from the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and the Senate Bill 42 is removed from the table. Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd to speak to the measure and his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am here to bring you today Senate Bill 42. A little more serious than I normally do, but it's a great bill. Mr. President, in a world of our education system when discipline is a major problem, and we actually find out that it is alarming of the teachers that are leaving us, and mainly because of disciplinary activities in their classroom. Several years ago, in the attempt to improve schools and the discipline, we referred to the data that became included on the school's climate determination, thus the STAR score. And we was hoping that this would improve the discipline in our school system, but we found that it hasn't. Then the STAR reports requires that schools are evaluated on many things, but the STAR report is about discipline. Now that sounds like it'd work out well, but it hasn't, because the teachers will send a disruptive student to the principal's office or the disciplinarian, and oftentimes where it won't affect the school's rating, they may not do anything, or they may send a student back to the classroom. And the teachers are a little tired of this. Discipline is important for the other students to learn anything. And I want to thank many of the teachers that are in this body, especially the teacher, the principal, my friend from the 12th district, who is like a mentor to me. And I even brought an apple to her for her great work on this bill. Also, the senator from the 37th who used to be on the school board, never took his salary for that, which we don't pay much anyway for school boards, but they do a great work. And they all recognize the problem, but to take away the score or to not allow people or parents or people that are looking at moving into that school system to not know what the discipline problems are? Well, the amendment, and I'll talk about it now, requires that they put the discipline problems on their website and have it electronic form, and also have it there that they can stop by the office and get an accounting for. So this is still there. It's just not part of the grade of the school, so we hope and believe that the discipline will happen because it's no longer part of the grading of the school, but it's very visible for the parents, community, other teachers, students, people visiting, people looking at moving into that area. It is still there. And we know that discipline will now happen if it's not part of the grading system of the school system. Mr. President, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 4th to your left.
Or I have a paddle and we could go out in the hall.
Senator Mullis, I just want you to know that
Say the senator from the 53rd.
I just want you to know that I've talked to every superintendent in my district. That's 6 of them, and all of them are in favor of the bill.
Well, thank you, Senator. I appreciate your good work. You're an excellent rising star in this body, and especially for supporting this bill. Is there any other questions, Mr. President?
Anybody you want me to call on?
No, I mean, I'll be...
You have no more questions.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your support on this fine.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 42 or Amendment Number 1? The chair sees none. All right, we'll take up Amendment Number 1. The question is on the adoption of Amendment Number 1 from the senator from the 53rd. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and Amendment Number 1 is adopted. The question now is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agree to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? We got one coming? I bet I knew which one it was. There he is. Ladies and gentlemen, he's here all week and twice on Sunday. Have all senators voted? Hallways clear. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 39, the nays are 12. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the... Oh, almost forgot. For what purpose does the freshman senator from the 31st rise?
Mr. President, I want to take Senate Bill 66 off the table.
Is that a motion, or is that
So
just...
moved.
Almost sounded like a felony. You were going to take something.
I might.
Mr. Secretary, will you read the freshman senator's Senate Bill 66? Will you read the caption?
Senate Bill 66 by Senator Anna Vitarte of the 31st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 20 of Title 40 and Title 48 of the OCGA relating to education and revenue and taxation, respectively, so as to authorize a nonprofit corporation incorporated by the Georgia Foundation for Public Education to receive private donations to be used for grants to public schools, to provide for the expiration of the Public Education Innovation Fund Foundation's authority to promote public-private partnerships, and to receive private donations to be used for grants to public schools. The Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Payne of the 54th. Education and Youth offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 66, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 20 and Title 48 of the OCGA relating to education and revenue and taxation, respectively, so as to authorize a nonprofit corporation incorporated by the Georgia Foundation for Public Education to receive private donations to be used for grants to public schools, to provide for the expiration of the Public Education Innovation Fund Foundation's authority to promote public-private partnerships, and to receive private donations to be used for grants to public schools. This completes the order, Mr. President.
For what purpose does the senator from the 56 rise?
A parliamentary inquiry.
State your
Mr.
inquiry.
President. Isn't it true a freshman senator should be sitting in his seat, not be walking up the aisle prior to doing his first bill?
Actually, it's the chair's opinion that all senators should start the position sitting in their chair.
I agree.
Chair, the senator from the 31st has moved that Senate Bill 42 be taken from the table. Is there 66? I'm getting close. 66 from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it's taken from the table. Now the chair recognizes the freshman senator from the 31st to present the measure.
Yeah, I need it. Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm here to ask for favorable consideration of Senate Bill 66. Senate Bill 66 basically is a very simple bill. It's merging the Innovation Fund Foundation and the Georgia Foundation for Public Education. Just to give you a quick background, the Georgia Foundation for Public Education was created in 2010 as a 501c arm that was attached in 2019. It has a mission to support public schools in a broad way by raising philanthropic money. The Innovation Fund Foundation was created in 2013 as a 501c3 to raise money. Also, it awards grants to schools and partners for innovation programs. It's a 100% tax credit that was added in 2017 that would manage the IFF. So over the past few years, we've seen that both these foundations have had pretty similar missions, and thus we're merging them together. And with that, Mr. President, I will take any questions.
Chair recognizes the distinguished Rules Chairman, who's unusually busy today.
Senator Yield.
Of course, Senator.
Senator, isn't it true that the Republican Senate is such a diverse caucus?
That is very true.
Senator Yield.
Yes.
Aren't you our first Hispanic member of the Senate Republican caucus?
Yes, I'm the first Latino Republican in this body.
I'm sorry, I got the wrong lingo.
It's okay,
there.
you're learning.
Senator Yield,
Yes, sir.
since you are indeed our first Latino, would you mind going over this in your native language?
Absolutely not. We want to get out of here today, Senator.
Okay. No more questions for you.
Thank you.
Do you continue to yield?
Of course.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 6th for a question.
Will the senator yield?
Yes, Senator.
With respect to this, is this a tax bill? Like, 'cause it offers a tax credit?
Yes, it is a tax credit.
Okay. And with respect to that, aren't all tax bills supposed to start in the House?
Oh, it's a good question, Senator. Since we're merging two foundations that already exist, no.
Will the senator yield?
Yes, ma'am.
So with respect to that, if it needed to start in the House, then this really has no effect. Would you agree with that?
If that's what you believe, Senator. You're welcome.
You have no more questions.
Thank you, Mr. President.
We do now. He's already yielded the well. We're good. We got dinner reservations. Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 66? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the rules chairman. I'm seeing a pattern here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you take the Senate Bill 195 off the table?
Is that a motion?
I so move.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 195 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 2-23-3 of the OCGA relating to definitions regarding hemp farming and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Walker of the 20th. Agriculture and Consumer Affairs offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 195, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 2-23-3 of the OCGA relating to definitions regarding hemp farming and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
The senator from the 53rd has moved that Senate Bill 195 be taken from the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it's removed from the table. The chair recognizes the rules chairman to speak to Senate Bill 195.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, absolutely. Now, look at him. I've got the perfect bill today. Thank you, Senator from the 46. I love that lingo. This bill is about hemp farming. That's right. Not that we're going to burn one, as somebody asked me. This is about hemp farming. Very serious. And you know, hemp farming once was a prestigious activity in the farming community until it was ruled illegal. You know why? Because DuPont invented nylon rope. They used to make rope out of hemp. So that become illegal. Well, we're back. We're back in a hemp-growing community with all of our farmers. I want to thank the senator from the 20th and his lead in the Agriculture Committee to help pass such an outstanding bill for the hemp farmers of Georgia. So this bill clarifies the definition for hemp processing. That's right, hemp processing, so that the traditional farming practices, commonly known as drying and a crying, shucking and a clucking, bucking and a plucking, storing and a snoring, trimming and a swimming, currying and a stirring, is not included. Has nothing to do with hemp. So the processing in hemp will not be disturbed or confused with the regular farming activities. And most of us don't understand that. But the farmers do that are in this room. Now, I'm a prime specimen of what farming does. The fiber and the food I'm all about. And I'd like to thank these ladies and gentlemen that are part of our farming community that help grow such a fine, distinguished gentleman as myself. Now, Mr. President, I could go on all day on this. It's such a great attribute. We're talking about hemp farming, but I'd be glad to take any questions for this outstanding piece of legislation.
Thank you for that. Chair recognizes the senator from the 7th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the distinguished rules chairman yield?
Absolutely. For one of my favorite farmers.
Well, I appreciate that.
A peanut picker from
well,
Rosella.
we appreciate those of you members of the FFBA who help make agriculture what it is, Mr. Chairman. Reading through your bill, you kind of mentioned some of these. I was just curious if you could give this body a actionable description of what shucking and bucking is.
Well, I won't give you the action, because that might confuse the members if I start putting some bodily activity here, but I do have the definition. So you're wanting to know the actual definition of shucking and a bucking?
Well, I was hoping to see you act it out.
No, look, in this pristine body, I'd rather not do that. But this means to take the flowering bud off the stems, and many of you who knows the other product really knows what I'm talking about. But this is normally done by hand. So it's real pristine, with shears or scissors, or holding the limb in one hand with a closed fist, running the other hand through the limb of the strip of where the bud is, and you take it off. And you put it in a baggie usually, and this used to mean an ounce of it, I believe. Isn't that what the senator from the 10th told me? But I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
More questions, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the pro tem to your left.
This is Senator Yield.
Yes.
Isn't
Mr. Pro Tem, what an honor of having a question from you today.
Isn't it true you're a freshman senator?
I am a freshman in many ways. My sheer activities and glee to be here with such fine, distinguished people.
Well,
absolutely.
I just have to
freshman
ask,
at heart.
When you refer to pristine body, are you referring to your body or this chamber?
I think it's one of the same, Mr. President.
They're not.
Does the senator still further yield?
Yes, I do.
You're making fun of the way I talk.
Give it to me, baby.
Isn't it true we have dinner reservations tonight? Get the heck out of the well.
I didn't understand that, Mr. President, but it's okay.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the Agriculture Committee for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the Senator yield?
I will yield.
I appreciate it. I should have caught this when it came before our committee. It's a little concerning
this is a trick
to me.
question.
But
yeah, go ahead.
Is it not true, distinguished rules chairman, that you're against moral turpitude?
No, sir. In fact, I know all about moral turpitude. And let me explain. It is what your mama told you. And if you ever go against that, she'll be haunting you if she's not with you, or she'll be whooping you if she is.
Well, thank you, Senator. Would you further yield?
I will.
Certainly you would be against plagiarism and copyright violation.
Only if I'm caught.
All right. Well, it is my main question. Let me just get the crux question. In line 14 and through 15, you talk about shucking and bucking, storing, trimming, and curing. Did you indeed steal this from a Jerry Lee Lewis song?
No, but I like that. I was trying to kind of put some lyrics together, and thank you. Would you help me with the melody?
Thank you, Senator.
I thought you'd leave on that one.
Do you continue to yield?
Yes, Mr. President, I'm having fun.
The freshman senator from the 31st wants another crack at you with a question.
All right, give it to me.
Does the chairman yield?
Certainly.
Do you know what the THC content of hemp is?
No, sir, but I'm sure you do.
I do.
Well, yes,
we'll
sir.
talk afterwards. Does the senator further yield?
I will.
Would you consider hemp a appetite suppressant?
You know, I've never have been exposed to hemp, but I would say it's a herbal substance that has certain many product qualities to it that will only help the people of Georgia as this is produced. Thank you so much for the question.
You have no more questions.
And I'm sad of that, Mr. President, but I want to ask this body for their support and their vote on such a fine piece of legislation today. I yield the way.
Thank you for your presentation. Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 195? The chair sees none. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? We got a thumbs up from the hallway. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Wonder if the rules chairman's teed himself up for any more today. Chair recognizes the senator from the 13th for a motion.
Mr. President, make a motion that we remove 222 from the table, please. Senate Bill 222.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 222 by Senator Summers of the 13th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 3 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to state symbols so as to designate the pecan as the official state nut, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Walker of the 20th. Senator Harbin of the 16th and others offers the following Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 222 by striking the word pecan on line 34 and placing in lieu thereof the senator from the 13th. This completes the order, Mr. President.
The senator from the 13th has moved that Senate Bill 222 be removed from the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and Senate Bill 222 is removed from the table. The chair recognizes the distinguished senator from the 13th to present his first bill. Please be advised, there's a 30-minute shot clock.
I'm on your side.
That was more to the senators than it was for you.
Oh, I understand, sir. Senators, I am happy to be here. I can't wait till we get to vote on this bill. Let me tell you what's going on here. Georgia doesn't have an official nut, at least I don't think so. But we're going to get one today, I hope. I hope we get one today. Now, having said that, we can put a lot of names out there for nuts, but we're going to concentrate on what truly is good for the great state of Georgia and the great people of this great state of Georgia. And that is, we're going to designate the pecan or pecan as the official nut of Georgia. And as you will notice on your desk, the bribes are out there in several forms. They're sitting there in a little small packet of pecans, and they're sitting there in this nice, beautiful red box of pecans that was delivered to us by the Georgia Pecan Growers Association, courtesy of Ellis Brothers Pecans, which is in my district, in the 13th district, in the great county of Dooley County. And the senator from the 51st tried to claim yours, Mr. President, and there's only one left. Thank you. Bribery, well, what can I tell you? I'm very open and honest with it. So today, if you all, in your favorable consideration, would consider, without the other stuff, making the pecan, which should have been done a long time ago, the state nut of Georgia, we can move forward on this. And I have really no other thing to say, Mr. President, except, with all due respect, I will yield the well for questioning.
So just as a point of reference, you can't yield the well and get questions.
Gotcha, sir.
You pick. Which one?
I will open for question, Mr. President.
You certainly didn't do a very good job of explaining the bill because there's a lot of questions.
Yes, sir. I kind of knew there were going to be, sir.
Chair recognizes the distinguished rules chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Absolutely.
Senator, the contraption on the side of your face, is that a secret device telling the House everything that we're doing? Don't wait on the transportation. Give me the answer now.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Transportation. Look, I've been here too long today. Translation. All right, let's say your question.
Say it again, sir.
There's a lot of paperwork
Feel
on our
free to
desk.
remove the mask for just a minute. We're having a hard time here.
Really, I'm having a hard time, sir.
Thank you. All right, look, okay, it's been a long day. Let me ask you a question, though. What made you decide to do this piece of legislation? I mean, did you look in the mirror? Or tell me, what made you do the...
Well, I take all my encouragements from the senator from the 53rd, and I moved forward because I knew this is what needed to be done to designate the official nut of Georgia. And that's why we chose the pecan, sir. Thank you, sir.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 21st for a question.
Mr. President, Senator Yield.
Absolutely.
You had several campaigns back to back to get elected to your district, correct?
4 to be exact.
Oh, good, good. Senator, continue to yield.
Absolutely.
Did you make, when you were speaking to Rotary clubs and going door to door and campaigning, did you make this bill of creating the pecan, the official nut, a cornerstone of your campaign?
It was brought up several times, but due to COVID, it was limited.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, sir.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th for a question.
Series of questions, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, when you were deciding on what the official nut of Georgia was going to be, can you explain to us how you just came up with the pecan and why not the pecan?
Yes, sir. I think I can explain that to you. You see, down south, we're blessed to have all the pecan trees, probably more than anywhere in the south, in any state. Pecan is what we sort of give away as a freebie. A pecan is what we sell. And so therefore, I wanted to make sure you knew it's a pecan, because the Georgia Association of Pecan Growers definitely want to sell their nuts.
I could go crazy on that, but I'm gonna stay clean.
Easy
Senator,
now,
you further
easy
yield?
now.
So a pecan is set at a certain price. Is that not?
I'm sorry, sir?
accurate? Pecan, when it goes from pecan to pecan, it's kind of at a certain price level. Is that?
Well, now, when you
accurate?
say the word pecan, is that with 2 E's or 1?
I say it with 3.
Ooh.
Is that not true?
The senator knows what he speaks.
Well, my question, Senator, you got this box full of pecans and not pecans. Do we have a fiscal note on this? Do we know, are we going over our value of what we're supposed to accept here?
Absolutely not. Those pecans came expressly for every senator in this group from the Georgia Pecan Growers Association and the Ellis's, with no strings attached.
Well, Senator, while you were throwing gifts at us, trying to lobby for your bill here, we had a late arriving oppositional note. Are you aware of this note? From none other than Mr. Peanut?
I just received it, sir.
Have you read it?
No, sir. I just got it.
Senator, I would highly encourage you to read it. There's some disturbing information here that I'm really concerned about what you're trying to do here. And then finally, Senator, do you support the amendment or not? Because you never commented on that.
Well, I definitely, that was my next thing to tell you. On regards to Mr. Peanut, sir, as you well know, as it says on the line, peanuts are a legume, they're not nuts. They grow in the ground, and the nuts grow on the trees in the air. And I am certainly not going to accept the amendment, sir.
Senator, you certainly know your nuts. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Do you continue to yield?
Absolutely.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 7th for a serious question.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it. Does the distinguished senator yield?
I yield.
So the senator from the 28th mentioned a particular letter, and he asked if you had read that letter. I was just curious if you wouldn't just mind reading that letter for the Senate.
Well, in the absence of time, I don't know that I'll be able to go that far for you.
Oh. I think we have plenty of time, Senator.
How long is the letter? I think we got enough time.
Well, let me just read this oration of this letter here for you. Dear distinguished Georgia senators, thank you for considering a Georgia bill to name the official Georgia nut. I've been firmly planted in Georgia for many years, and I feel I've been betrayed by Senate Bill 222 and from the Senate of the 13th District. While I like my friend the pecan, due to recent global developments, Mr. Pecan is only a shell of a man he once was. I, Mr. Peanut, was weathered the storm of Georgia's taste buds. I have been roasted mercilessly, all for the benefit of those who have culinary proclivities, however you say that word. Due to the unfair and false claims of the senator of the 13th, I feel that if I have dry roasted, the salty environment unfairly created by this one state senator is uncalled for. Legume has come together to recognize, pardon me?
Say that again.
Legume, us, come together.
There we go.
And recognize the peanut as the real and only nut of Georgia, except for the state senator of the 13th. Therefore, I offer the following suggestions. Amendment to Senate Bill 222. Amend Senate Bill 222, LC 500190, by striking the word pecan on line 34 and replace it with the current senator from the 13th district. As I have also said to you all, gentlemen, I would not accept that amendment, but I certainly appreciate you bringing it forward.
Thank you, Senator.
I could think of some number of numbers I could put on there, though.
I'm sure.
With an eye on the clock, the chair asks the question, do you continue to yield?
I'll yield away, Mr. President. I'll ask for your favorable consideration on making the pecan the official nut of Georgia. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 16th or to speak to the amendment?
I thought this amendment was very fitting for our new senator. I have had the privilege, I've had the privilege of being with him, and you know, sometimes you're like a nut and sometimes you're not. There was something about in the air, I didn't know about that, and he's also a pilot, so that was the other part about the shell that was there. But I think this is a fitting amendment. I think that it's one that I would encourage my fellow senators to vote for, and I think that as it enters into the House, it will be something they have never seen before. So I ask for your favorable vote on this amendment. Thank you.
Chair, you have a question. Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
I will yield.
Senator, isn't it true that the senator for the 13th would be just shellfish to not accept this important amendment? Wouldn't it be true?
The senator knows from which he speaks.
You have no more questions.
No more questions. Thank you, sir.
Especially ones like that. All right. Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 222 or the amendment? Chair sees none. We'll take up amendment number 1 first, the super serious amendment. The question's on the adoption of amendment number 1. Is there objection? There is objection. All right, here we go. Would you like to speak to the objection? All right, good. All right, all those in favor of the adoption of amendment number 1 will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the on the adoption of amendment number 1, the yeas are 5, the nays are 45, and the amendment is lost. That was close. For what purpose does the minority leader rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that the amendment was printed wrong on the board?
Chair will consult with the secretary. The chair states that the amendment was properly posted.
It was what?
It's properly identified.
Well, then it looks like it's my error, Mr. President.
No worries. No worries. The hour's late. All right, let's move on to the measure. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? There he goes. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. What a process. Chair recognizes the senator from the 47th for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request that Senate Bill 95 be removed from the table.
The senator from the 47th has made a motion that Senate Bill 95 be taken from the table. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 95 by Senator Ginn of the 47th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 50 of the OCGA relating to state government so as to provide conditions for meetings and public hearings to be held by teleconference and emergency conditions, to provide conditions for certain agency members to participate in non-emergency meetings by teleconference, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Government Oak River Site recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbin of the 16th. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 47th has moved that Senate Bill 95 be removed from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and Senate Bill 95 is taken off the table. Chair recognizes the senator from the 47th to present the bill.
Boss told me somewhere it's getting closer to quitting time this afternoon. Senate Bill 95 is real simple. It said something that we've all learned during the pandemic. We don't have to do everything face to face. What this bill simply does is to allow local governments, state governments, authorities, or any part thereof to have a virtual meeting. Said for example, a zoning meeting or something along those lines could be done virtually. If there's no questions, I'll yield the will.
You have no questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 95? The chair sees none. Is there objection or agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted their machines? Hallway looks clear. Thumbs up. Mr. Secretary, will you please? Oh, we got one more. Felt like an auctioneer there. All right. All senators voted. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th for a motion.
Mr. President, I respectfully move that Senate Bill 183 be removed from the table.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 183 by Senator Robertson of the 29th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 16 of Title 15 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding sheriffs so as to revise qualification requirements for the office of sheriff, to require certification as a peace officer at the time of qualifying as a candidate for sheriff, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 29th has moved that Senate Bill 183 be removed from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it's removed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th to present Senate Bill 183.
Colleagues, I respectfully stand before you today with Senate Bill 183. As our state continues to move toward police reform, 183 requires that any candidate for sheriff prior to qualifying be a post-certified law enforcement officer in good standing. Mr. President, that is all. I'll answer any questions if there are any.
You have no questions.
Thank you, sir. I yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 183? Chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Hallway looks clear. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. We are making our way. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th for motion.
Mr. President, I ask that Senate Bill 187 be raised from the table.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 187 by Senator Tippins of the 37th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 20-3-519.2 of the OCGA relating to eligibility requirements for a Hope Scholarship so as to establish a procedure for students with a disability as defined by the Americans with Disabilities Act to apply for a waiver from certain Hope Scholarship and grant eligibility requirements and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Higher Education recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Tippins of the 37th. This completes the order.
The senator from the 37th has asked that Senate Bill 187 be raised from the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none. That must be some sort of spiritual reference. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th to speak to Senate Bill 187.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I'll be very brief. This bill is very narrowly focused and crafted. It applies to those students who are under Hope Scholarship, whose time may be running out, but those specific students who qualify as disabled under the Americans with Disabilities Act can apply to the Georgia Student Finance Commission for a waiver on time only. There's no additional hours, no cost to the state. Because of their disability, if they could not, those students who could not finish within the 7-year time limit that was imposed on them may petition the state for additional time. That's all this is. If there's no further questions, you will.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 187? Chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Hallways clear. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. That unanimous vote must have been because you raised it off the table. Maybe that's the new trick to getting unanimous votes. All right, the chair recognizes the senator from the 20th for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent to remove Senate Bill 168, the last bill, I believe, on the rules calendar, from the table.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 168 by Senator Walker of the 20th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 7 of Chapter 2 of Title 14 of the OCGA, leading to meetings so as to provide that a corporation may hold annual shareholders' meetings and special shareholders' meetings by means of remote communication and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th. Senate Judiciary offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 168, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 7 of Chapter 2 of Title 14 of the OCGA, leading to meetings so as to provide that a corporation may hold annual shareholders' meetings and special shareholders' meetings by means of remote communication and for other purposes. Senator Walker of the 20th and others offers the following Amendment 1, amend the substitute Senate Bill 168 by inserting to provide for an effective date after matters on line 5, by replacing line 51 with the following: this act shall become effective upon its approval by the governor or upon its becoming law without such approval. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 20th has moved that Senate Bill 168 be taken from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none. The senator from the 20th is recognized to speak to Senate Bill 168 and the amendment. God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, Senate Bill 168 is sort of similar to Senate Bill 95 that we just passed a little earlier today, but during the COVID-19 pandemic, companies have modernized and adapted the way they conduct their shareholder meetings by using remote communications like Zoom and Microsoft Teams. This has been allowed under the governor's executive order. We want to codify that so that they can continue to use this efficient method of communicating with their shareholders, and it would apply to annual shareholder meetings and special shareholder meetings. We don't know exactly how many companies took advantage of this, but we do know that over 30 of Georgia's largest companies conducted their remote shareholders meetings in 2020, and they want to continue to be able to do that going forward. The amendment simply changes the effective date. If this bill receives passage in the Senate and the House, it would become effective upon the governor's signature or becoming law without his signature. So I'd ask for a favorable consideration of the bill and the amendment, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any. If not, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 168 or Amendment Number 1? The chair sees none. All right, first we'll take up Amendment Number 1. The question is on the adoption of Amendment Number 1 by the senator from the 20th. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and Amendment Number 1 is adopted. The question now is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Chair hears none. The committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Hallways clear. Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. For what purpose does the senator from the 54th rise?
Mr. President, in order to correct a typographic error, I ask unanimous consent that the committee report filed today by the Education and Youth Committee be amended to reflect that the recommendation on SB 106 be do pass by substitute LC 49049-4S.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 106 by Senator Davenport of the 44th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 20-2-742 of the OCGA relating to multi-tiered system of supports prior to suspension or expulsion for certain students so as to include wraparound services in the multi-tiered system of supports and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
The senator from the 54th has asked for unanimous consent that the committee report filed today by the Education Committee be amended to reflect that the recommendations on SB 106 be do pass by substitute. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is so. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Friday, 5 March 2021.
Mr. Secretary, do you have any announcements?
Tomorrow, March 4th, the Ethics Committee will be canceled. Rules Committee will not meet upon adjournment, but will meet tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. in room 450. Public Safety Committee will meet at 1:30 in mezzanine 1. Agriculture and Consumer Affairs is canceled. Transportation is canceled. Regulated Industries and Utilities is canceled. Government Oversight is canceled. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Does any senator have an announcement to make? Chair sees none. Must be dinner time. The majority leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until Friday, March 5th, 2021 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. And the ayes have it. The Senate stands adjourned. Great work today.